Morning, everybody. It is Friday, January 16th, 2026, in the new year. This is a special budget meeting of the Commissioners of City Rehoboth Beach. We're live at City Hall Commissioners Room, second floor. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 9 o'clock a.m. We'll do, in lieu of roll call, I'll make note that the mayor and the commissioners are here, except absent is Commissioner Susan Stewart, and absent is Commissioner Suzanne Good. Otherwise, we have a quorum and are able to formally conduct business today. There is no correspondence received. Would like to indicate that to thank everybody that's here virtually and watching. Thank you. Also, thank you those that are here in person. As you know, we welcome comments throughout the discussion for budget meetings, and the guidelines are at the bottom of the agenda. And also a reminder that support documents, when available, sufficient time prior to the meeting starting, are available online, and hard copies of today's budget are outside there for everybody to have their own hard copy for draft number 1. There is no correspondence, as I mentioned. The purpose of this meeting today is to discuss and possible consideration of the draft budget for fiscal year 2027, including capital improvement plan and schedule of fees and penalties as presented by the city manager. I do want to clarify that all the agenda language will, for budgets, will indicate possible consideration, and that's not intended to tell anybody that we are voting on the entire budget in entirety, but there may be opportunities to vote on individual components if the occasion arises. With that, I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Taylor Tedder.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to present the FY27 budget for our first meeting today. So first, I'd like to make note that we have several staff members here today. Our new Finance Director, Julia Johnson, is here, Assistant City Manager Evan Miller, and then Henry Matlos, our Public Works Director. And today, I'd like to start with going over our budget schedule. So today, again, this is meeting number 1, and we will provide an overview of the budget in general, and then we'll go do a deep dive into all of the different capital budget projects. And then at the end of that presentation, Evan will come up and go over the proposed schedule of fees and penalties. Then our second budget meeting on February 9th, we will have the general fund presentation by department, except for Public Works. Henry will not be with us that day. So then we will go to February 20th when we will have our third budget meeting. We'll go over the enterprise fund presentations by department, and then also go over the other Public Works departments in the general fund. Then March 9th, we'll have our final number 4 meeting where we'll go over the community partner contributions. So that's organizations like Main Street and so on. Discuss, and the discussion will include the grant requests, final questions and comments on the budget. And then March 20th is when we've scheduled for you to vote to approve the FY27 budget. And I do want to mention that on budget meeting number 3 on February 20th, we will also go over the overages on our net position and fund balance policy and discuss projects that we could potentially do with that funding. We have included a copy of that as a handout in front of you today, so you can start thinking about that after you see all of the projects that we do have planned with the current FY27 budget.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Yeah, we're going to take questions as we proceed there, and there may be times when the city manager defers the question to a future point when it's more appropriate. Commissioner Thier?
Thank you. Revenue encumbrances, will that be part of the February 9th when you do general fund presentation by department? Or is that going to be a different? Okay, great.
So we will go over general fund revenue on meeting number 2, and we'll go over enterprise revenue on meeting number 3.
Okay, great. Second question is, with the fund balance, are you going to be recommending any put aside the overages and, what to do with the overages, you're going to be making any, going to recommend any changes to the way we calculate the unassigned fund balance minimum? Or are we going to leave that as it is?
My perspective is it will stay the same.
Okay, so just to be clear, right, so the general fund unassigned fund balance minimum is 22.3 million, so we're not going to change that.
We have no plans to change it
Okay.
at this point.
At this point. Okay,
Right.
great. All right, thank you.
All right, moving on. So this year's budget is very heavy in capital outlay, and we are doing major projects to improve our water system and our wastewater system, among other things that we will get into. So in the general fund, we have 24.7 million of expenses minus capital, which is approximately a 2.8% increase from last year, which I believe is very minimal, so that's very exciting. We have $4 million planned for general fund capital investment, $2.4 million in water operations, $4.3 million in water capital, $7 million in wastewater operations, $7.8 million in wastewater capital. We are planning no increases to taxes. Evan will go over the proposed fee changes in the schedule of fees and penalties after we go over the capital projects. We have no new employees planned this year, and we have a cost of living increase built into this budget of a 2% COLA. I also want to turn your attention to page 45 and 46 of your packet, which shows the 5-year CIP plan, and this has been scheduled to occur with wastewater phase 4, where this year has a heavy capital budget, but you'll see that in the off years, 4 or 5 years out, our capital budget does decrease. And then I'd also like to turn your attention to the enterprise fund revenues on the screen. This does include the Sussex County share, especially for phase 4, since we are paying cash for that. And it's based on flows, which is approximately over 60%. And you'll see many items in this year are one-time necessary improvements to our critical infrastructure. And we will go ahead and move to the next slide. So you will see on our revenues here, we did reduce the parking credit card revenue, and that's because of the natural shift. Just more and more people are using Park Mobile. So that parking pay by phone is the Park Mobile revenue. And again, it's just been the natural trend. It's more user-friendly for people to use. And again, please let me know if you have any questions as we're going. I would like to briefly mention some highlights from our departments, which we will get into more detail on the second meeting. You'll notice that in administration, we do have funding to complete the ADA transition plan, and then continuing the partnership with Dover Cole Partners to create transformative code changes, form-based code, things of that nature. In the police budget, we have the second year of their union contract with Teamsters that was implemented last year. The take-home vehicle program is completely implemented, and their maintenance contracts, just because costs go up, those are increasing as well. In Parks and Recreation, we have several capital projects planned at Lake Girard, including the fishing pier, which we received the donation from the donor for that. The West Prong, we will be planning to dredge that, and it includes dewatering and outfall repair. And then on here, we did have the playground replacement, but that actually is going to be removed and put in the next year's budget because they need that space to do the accretion project. And then in building and licensing, you'll also notice that there is funds set aside for the ICC plan review. That's where the International Code Council is reviewing certain projects plans for us, zoning code updates, and then the 2027 I-Code, which is the electronic version of the International Building Code, the 2027 edition, and they no longer make it in a book. So
Mayor, if I could, please, a couple of quick questions.
Commissioner Thayer, yes, sir.
Yeah, great, thank you. Police, continuation of take-home vehicle program. I appreciate that, this program will continue on in perpetuity. But I understand, if I recall correctly from last year, we were kind of in a catch-up phase, right? We needed to add vehicles because we didn't have enough vehicles for all the officers who qualified for take-home. So where are we in that catch-up period? Are we going to complete that catch-up period this year, or is that going to continue on for another couple of years?
We are completely caught up, and all of the vehicles are part of the enterprise fleet leasing system. I think the last two are currently at the vendor being built out. So
So the cost to build those out, which, isn't insignificant, is that going to be in the 26 or in the 27 budget?
it's already in this year's budget.
Okay, so it'll be done. So
yeah.
So how long are we keeping the vehicles? I guess the question is, how frequently are you gonna roll them out?
The vehicles turn over about every 5 years.
Okay,
So we have, I don't think we have any planned for FY '27, but '28, I believe we would be turning over 3.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, and then after that, every 5 years, they'll,
correct.
per our contract and roll. Okay, great. Building and licensing. So there's two things that I want to talk about with building and licensing. The first one is code. I can tell you that there is a very strong feeling amongst the residents of this community that the city administration has decided it's just not going to enforce code, okay? And again, that's perception, reality, whatever it is. So I think this is something that needs to be addressed. And what I lack when I look at this as a problem is I lack data, okay? So I don't know how many times or how many, let's use the term complaint, that's probably not the right term, but I don't know how many times someone submits a code violation or submits a complaint for a code violation. So I don't even know what the number is. And I think one of the reasons why we don't even know what the number is because there's no consistent way to submit a violation. And people within the community are very confused about how to submit a violation. And I believe that I think there could be as much as 50 or 60% of the violations that people would submit. They just don't even submit because they don't know how to do it. So for clarity here, my understanding of the process is that during normal building and licensing business hours, if you have a code violation complaint, you call business and licensing and you submit the complaint. Sometimes a code officer is there, sometimes there's not, and that shouldn't be interpreted as a negative, right? The code officers need to go out into the community and do their job. So you may get a live code official, you may not. If not, then you leave a message. Off hours, you call dispatch, and you log it with dispatch. Assuming that, Chief Banks, since that becomes a police matter, I'm assuming Chief Banks has some sort of protocol, policy, and procedure to determine what they're going to do about it or how they're going to handle it, whether they're going to handle it immediately, pass it to building and licensing, whatever the case may be. And then there's kind of this in-between time, which is, I think it's between like 8 and 8:30 or 8 and 9, when the code enforcement official is on duty. I believe they start at 8. But the office doesn't open till 8:30 or 9, so if you call in that window, you could literally just not get anybody, or you have to know which code enforcement official is actually on duty if you want to get a hold of them. So it's an extremely disjointed process that no one understands, and I'm going to bring it back to my first point, which is there's no data. So what I'd like to see within the next 60 days is a system where people can go to the website, file their code complaint. We're capturing that data. There's a process for code enforcement to, lack of a better term, adjudicate that complaint, right? Follow through that, make a determination on that complaint. Everything needs to be written down, and it's available to all of us. I suspect it would be available to anybody who wants to FOIA the information as well, but at least near term, I want to be able to see that data. I want to see how many code complaints there actually are. I want to see what they're for. I want to see who they're against. I want to see what was done to adjudicate or what was done to assess that and make a determination. I'm looking for details, okay? And I'd like to see that within 60 days. You and I talked about a year ago about a portal that you had used at a previous employer where residents, or I don't even say residents, but people could go into that portal, log a code violation, pothole, so on and so forth. I'd love to see us get there, but I want to see something in the next 60 days, okay? So let me finish, right? So putting aside how I do or do not feel about what code enforcement is or is not doing, this is all about there's no data. I want data. I want to see how many how many complaints there are, what's being done to adjudicate these complaints. That was one. Two, permits. If my memory is correct, 3 or so years ago, and let me finish on code because there's one more comment I need to make. I remember sitting in this room. I was actually sitting out there. This is 2 years ago. I'm not going to say commissioners' names, though I can vividly remember the discussion back and forth. There was a pretty passionate conversation about code enforcement, okay? I'm not sure you were here yet. I think it was a month or two before you started. And a decision was made to add code enforcement officials, right? We'd staff up code enforcement officials because, again, at that time, the perception of the community was you're not enforcing code. Nothing's changed, okay? So we need to attack this problem. We need to attack this problem within the next 60 days. I'll make a motion to get a vote. I'm getting a shake of a head yes that you're going to pursue that. If I need to make a motion and get a vote, I'll do that. But before I do that, second thing I'm looking for. Roughly 3 years ago, plus or minus, again, things blend together from a time perspective. This was when Mary Ellen Gray was hired, and my understanding was part of what she was hired for was that we were going to deploy technology in the building and licensing department. And what I mean by that specifically is that everything would go online. So if you needed to file for a permit, you go to the website, you file for your permit online, okay? Submit all your documentation online. There's a whole bunch of benefits to that, workflow, efficiencies, and effectiveness. But as it comes to something that's really basic, which is the stakeholders in this community's right to know what's going on, is if all this information is online, it can be immediately available to them in a search. So if somebody files for a tree permit, for example, they'll know right away that somebody has filed a tree permit to take down trees. There's technology that would allow, if somebody files a permit for something and a resident signs up, they can get notified by email. Hey, somebody filed for a tree permit. They can go online, look up what that tree permit is. If they have concerns, they can voice their concerns. I'm picking out trees, as you know, because it happens to be an extremely passionate topic over the last couple of weeks. So what I'm looking for is, again, in the next 60 days, I realize we can't implement what should have been implemented 3 years ago in Munis. What I'm looking for is any permit that gets applied for is online. You've got iCompass. It can go on iCompass. My understanding from the limited dialogue I've had, iCompass does not have the ability to automatically notify people of changes, but we should look into that. And if iCompass isn't going to be able to do that, then iCompass is probably not the long-term solution. The point is, in the next 60 days, I want to see this stuff online. I'll give you the latitude to determine whether it's going to go in iCompass or somewhere else, okay? But the long term for me is, and I want to see a strategy during this budget cycle, building and licensing, embracing and implementing technology, and what are going to be the stopgaps between now and that implementation as it relates to code, collecting data on code, and as it relates to getting any permit that anyone files for online so that people can see it. Let me stop there. I really want to call for a motion at this point because I think this is very important. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the two items that I just said. So within 60 days, the city will implement a system via our website or something similar where residents or whoever it is, stakeholders, can go online and submit code violations. That would be one. Can I get a second?
Second.
Mayor?
So we have a motion and a second for within 60 days to implement an online system for constituents to go online to seek out permit information.
No, this is code violations. They can go online. If they want to submit a complaint about code or submit a complaint about a code violation, this is code violations. I'm going to do a second motion for building and licensing. So this is just about code violations.
So we have a motion and a second within 60 days to implement an online system for constituents to see code violations. And we have a second. Do roll call vote. Commissioner Galante?
Great idea. Heard a lot about it on the campaign. People want this. Yes.
Commissioner Saunders?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Thayer?
Yes.
And the chair votes no, only because I'd like to see more discussion between the city manager and Commissioner Thayer to iron out exactly what needs to be done. Regardless, the motion passes.
The second motion I'm going to make, I move to, again, within 60 days, the city manager will post online. And again, we're going to, at this point, we're going to give him the latitude to determine how that's posted online, any permits that are applied for within the city. I would like to see, and again, I think we'll be a little bit flexible in terms of the notification, because it's my understanding that if he uses something like iCompass, there is no automated notification. I would say so everything needs to be online within 60 days. I would like to see any permit that is filed for is posted online within 48 business hours, so within 2 days. And then that's 60 days, within 120 days, a system to allow users to sign up for automatic notification, email, text. Again, we'll give a little latitude there on what the notification is when a permit is applied for. If he can't do that within 120 days, he can come back to us with what the solution is going to be and the timing. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
So we have a motion and a second, help me out here, that within 60 days, city manager will post online permits that are applied for, and within 48 hours, include a system for signing up to receive notices.
Yeah, so just to clarify that, so within 60 days, the system will be up. Permits will be posted to that site within 48 hours of receipt of that permit. And then within 120 days, a system that will allow stakeholders to sign up for automated notification when permits are posted.
Good question.
Yes.
Let me kind of state it again real quick. Be nice if you write these boogers out before we get them. Within 90 days, the city manager will post online permits and for post. I've still got for posted within 48 hours, and then within 120 days, include a system to sign up to receive permit information.
Yeah, what you're gonna get is, and again, I think we'll provide some latitude here because this is probably not a simple task, but for example, if you want to be notified if someone submits a permit to remove a tree, you get an email notification that someone has submitted a permit to remove a tree. You can then go to the portal and look at that application and know who submitted it and what they're trying to take down.
You had a question, Commissioner Saunders?
Thank you. That was sort of my question. When we say permits, we're talking about tree permits, construction permits, residential as well as commercial?
I would say probably all three. I would say all three. I guess I'm going to ask the question back to you, Mark, is of those three groups, and pretty much encompasses most of it, if not all of it, is there something that we should be excluding?
I don't think, I can't think of any we should exclude. I think I want to make sure everything's included.
Yeah. So I guess it would be residential, commercial, what was the third one that you, tree,
Trees, sidewalks.
sidewalks?
Forgive me, Commissioner, if I may. While I appreciate the expeditious nature of what you're doing, there are legal concerns, redactions, things like that in permit information. The larger commercial ones certainly, but some of the smaller, I would like just some additional time to resolve any impediments that we may have. There's certainly no question that putting permitting online is something that we would aspire to, but in the very, very short time frame you're giving us, I'm not sure I can complete the legal review.
So I'm going to say a couple of things here, right? So one is as it relates to permits, right? We're 3 years into this process and have gotten nowhere. Okay, so you're asking for more time that I think we're at a point in time where I'm questioning whether it should be granted. Okay. 2, I think you gotta, this may require looking at what the process is today, the way you collect data today, so that if information needs to be redacted, you can very quickly redact that data. Okay. For example, what people want to know is if and I keep coming back to trees, and I think everyone in this room knows why I keep coming back to trees. But there's just a couple things people want to know. Does somebody want to take a tree down, and where do they want to take it down? Right? So maybe that's if you feel that there's other information in that tree permit application that should be redacted, then maybe you just need to update that application so you got, redactable information on one page and non-redactable information on another page, and you just you just post the page with this is what this is the location, tree. And listen, at least I appreciate I'm oversimplifying things. I'm willing to be, at this point, I'm pretty firm on 60 days. I think if you've got concerns and you want to come back at the next meeting and say, hey, these are the things I can't get done, I think I'm willing to be flexible. I'm not going to speak for others, but I'm at a point where we need action at this point. So
Would you just re-articulate the 60, 48, and 120-day timeframes?
sure. So within 60 days, the city will start posting any of these permits we just discussed, right? Any of the building permits, residential, commercial, tree permits, sidewalk permits. Within 60 days, they will be available online. They will be posted online. I have used the term iCompass, so I should probably just take a minute for the folks in the audience and the folks listening today to talk about what iCompass is. So iCompass is a software system that the city uses to manage a bunch of different things. One of the capabilities that it provides a web-based folder system where you can share information. So think Google Drive, think Microsoft OneDrive. I'm not going to say it's the same, but I'm going to say it's similar. So when I use the term iCompass, that's what I'm referring to. But more specifically, we will post permits available online to anybody who wants to look them up. That will occur within 60 days. Once we start doing that, the permits will be posted online within 48 hours, okay? Within 120 days, we will have in place a system that will automatically notify people who sign up. Again, you'd have to sign up, right? And again, that's not my rule. These are kind of the rules of the internet. You'd have to sign up, but you could sign up and get notified when new permits are posted. So for example, if somebody files a tree permit today, a user who is signed up to be notified anytime a new tree removal permit has been submitted, they get notification. All I'm asking is that they get notified. The user can then go to the portal and look at the permit. I would think in the long term, we'd want to get to that notification includes what that permit is or a link to that permit. But I appreciate we're talking about technology here, and I'd like to get something up and running really as quickly as possible. But again, I'm open to if any of my fellow commissioners feel strongly one way or another about things that I'm, saying, any of my timelines or kind of my vision here, love to hear it. I would just like to get us moving in this direction as quickly as possible.
Commissioner, if I may, just one data point to consider. So we do actually currently have the ability to search for building permit and inspection information in the document center. So you find the project that you're looking for, you open it up, and then it has a permit number, application number at the top. And then in Munis, we implemented the citizen self-serve module, which has the permits. You go there, and then you put that application number in, and you can pull it up. That is for building permit and inspections. We can do more, but again, it does not do notifications, so we would need some other software platform or something, but iCompass would not be it.
Okay. So back to what you're describing, which again, is new to me, right? So I'm not sure if any of the other commissioners were aware that this
Remember, we
was
have a
available.
motion on the floor.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe you've already satisfied the first 60 days, and it's just a communication process. So again, I'm going to keep my motion on the floor. It sounds like he's at least part of the way down the path, but within 60 days, all this stuff is available online. Within 120 days, automated notification. Any permit that's applied for has got to be available within 48 hours. So, I mean, the good news, it sounds like we might have a lot of this stuff available already, and it's a communication and education process, and we're working towards automated notification. So anyways, motion's on the floor. I think Mark seconded my motion. I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Yeah, and I apologize to us up here and to the public. I did not go to them before the last motion was made, but I will open that opportunity now before we take a vote. The topic, of course, is what the motion is. If you want to go backwards and comment on what we already voted on, that's fine too. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Carolyn?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I don't think it's a bad thing to make permits available for the public to see. However, I think the devil is in the details. I think you have to work through it. I think you have to figure out when is a permit deemed to have been submitted. Having submitted permits in the past, and full disclosure, I'm on Parks and Shade Tree, so I can see how long sometimes it takes for a permit to actually be deemed, or a permit application to be deemed complete. So I think you have to work through these details, and I think it's premature to set deadlines until the details are worked out. If a tree is dead and deemed to be dead, nobody should object to that. So, I think you have to look at the types of permits that comes in and also what notices are already done. For example, nobody mentioned demolition permits, but there are already rules associated with notifications on those and who should be notified. Like I said, I don't think this is a bad thing, but I think you have to work through the details, and I think you have to nail down those details before you set arbitrary deadlines on when to have all this stuff available. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to call the question. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Saunders?
I vote yes.
Commissioner Gossett?
I vote yes, but just clarification on this. Commissioner Thier, in approaching this, have any budget restrictions on this action at all? So if we need to hire additional staff or, buy another software system or something of that nature, I'm just curious your thoughts on that. And again, I'm not hesitant on this,
We're in the
but
middle of the motion, so you're not going to be able to answer that right this moment. Go ahead with your vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Galante?
I am concerned about the legal review that the city solicitor brought up, and I also resonated with Carolyn's comments. I think this is a good intention, but I think that we need a more thorough review assessment of this before we put arbitrary schedules to this, and for that reason, I vote no.
And the chair also votes no. My reasoning is, I think this has laudable goals, both motions do. But I don't believe it takes into account any monies that might be required. I don't think I know it doesn't take into account any workload. I think more collaboration needs to take place before this happens, and a more realistic time frame for it. And also, I do agree with Carolyn. However, with that, the vote passes 3-2. So there you go.
Can I answer Patrick's question?
Yeah, repeat the question, and if you
Yeah,
would.
so Patrick was asking about any costs. So reason why I'm bringing this up today is because we are in the budget cycle. So if there are any costs that are going to be incurred for this, let us know.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We will do our best to move forward on that. I think ultimately, with our new communications manager, putting this to the forefront and amping up our communications of what we're already doing and then looking into what we can do further will really, I think, get to the goal that you're looking for. So moving on, comfort stations, you'll notice in that budget, the contractual services did increase slightly. We do have a new restroom cleaning contract. In our IT department, we are planning for additional fiber to critical facilities. So some of those facilities are still on point-to-point network setups, which is not ideal. So this is either working with Comcast or Crown Castle to finish fiber to those facilities. And you'll notice just that in the maintenance contracts, that's a pretty large line item because it does include our Tyler Munis enterprise software, all of our Microsoft licensing, and so on. And then you'll notice as we go through the capital projects in a moment that there are various infrastructure and public works projects. Moving to water.
Question?
Yes.
Commissioner Saunders?
A question, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask a little bit about streets. I know that we had talked about possibly putting in some sort of either a cost sharing or a city cost situation where people could have their sidewalks repaired or replaced where need be. And then we had some questions on whose responsibility it was, and we went no further with that. And I'm wondering, is there funds set aside for some sort of a sidewalk restoration project?
So what we do with sidewalks, it is the responsibility of the property owner if it's on their property. And if we are doing a project in the area, we can get them a lower unit price on those sidewalks. So that is actually the program that we do that definitely lowers the cost for them to take advantage of getting their sidewalk repaired. We also do have funds in this that I will present in a little bit about repairing sidewalks that the city will pay for, and it just has to meet certain criteria.
Great. I just want to make sure that there is some opportunity for homeowners to have their sidewalks repaired
Sure.
without too much of a financial burden.
Sure.
Thank you.
So in water, we do have some recommended repair and maintenance on those facilities that were recommended in the recent EPA audit. We have not gotten the final audit yet, but these were verbal recommendations that they made to us. So they also had recommended work on the trees around our wells, which, just FYI, all of our wells are not within the city limits. So no trees will be removed in the city limits related to this, but that is, the roots can definitely damage our system. So that was a big recommendation they had. You'll also see money for our contract with George and Lynch. This is specifically for traffic control, excavation, and restoration, typically on our projects that are on Route 1 or Rehoboth Avenue Extended related to our utility services. And then you'll also see capital outlay for our ongoing infrastructure repairs and replacements related to also PFAS treatment, which we'll get into in a little bit. And wastewater, so sludge hauling is now the cost to dispose of our cake that we make with our belt filter press, and no one wants to eat that. So we have to pay a permitted disposal fee for those, taking them in roll-off containers. And then we also have the annual outfall dive inspection, and we are looking at Phase 4 of wastewater and refurbishing the Hickman Street pump station in this budget as well. So I wanted to present these charts for you to break out the differences between the last several fiscal years. And again, this is that 2.8% increase on general fund expenses year over year, which does not include capital. And then this chart on the right shows our capital budget in the general fund for the last 4 years. And then in the water fund, you'll see the actual operations expenses. Of course, chemicals and things of that nature have greatly risen in price, so that's the approximate $100,000 increase there. And then our water capital expense is much higher this year with the PFAS carbon filtering upgrades that we have planned, and we're very excited to continue providing clean, safe drinking water no matter what the EPA standards are. And wastewater fund, you will see this expense in the operations is approximately $1 million more, but that's because our loan, the $12 million loan that we had that was being drawn down on for the wastewater plant related to Phase 3 and 3B capitalized, so now we're making that payment on that loan. And then you'll see here with Phase 4, the expense in the capital budget increases, but that's less than the total cost of the project because Sussex County is paying their share. Any questions before I start going through
Yeah,
our
Mayor, if I
capital
could, please.
projects?
Commissioner Thayer?
Thank you. Can you just go back one slide?
Yeah.
So wastewater, the capital expense, the number that I'm looking at for 27, the 7.8 million, is that the total or is that just Rehoboth Beach's share? And to be a little more specific, right, our wastewater partners are going to pay their share of the debt service that you just mentioned, right? So there's 12 million that, went into debt service. The county is responsible 42%, and then another 5%, some of our other partners. Does that reflect only Rehoboth Beach's share, or is that the total share?
Total share.
It's total
That's
share.
the total share, yeah.
Okay,
We
all
have
right,
a
great.
separate line item in the wastewater revenue account to account for.
I'm going to stop you. Sorry. So what I want you to understand, and I'm looking at Julia because you're new, is that the vast majority of the residents of this community don't understand this. Okay, so they look at the first slide where it says, hey, our budget's $50 million. It was $43 million last year, and they say, oh my gosh, the budget's going up $7 million, right? All the people up here are crazy. They don't know what they're doing. We need to, and I'm going to use this slide as an example, but I want you to take this concept and really apply it to everything. And if you want to show this slide, that's fine, but there needs to be another slide that shows the total wastewater capital expense, less what our partners are paying for, and then the net that the city of Rehoboth Beach is paying. Because when we look at that $50 million annual budget for next year, that's not all the city of Rehoboth Beach. Okay, we've heard Mr. Tedder emphasize multiple times that the general fund expenses are going up 2.8%. And putting aside, we'll get into all the details and we may agree or disagree on some of those expenditures. The reality is a 2.8% increase year over year is a very modest increase. I think it's a reasonable increase. But when somebody sees $50 million and last year's budget is $43 million, that just gets lost in everything. So we need to be breaking out, and I want to say breaking out, we need to be very clearly showing, yes, our budget is $7.8 million, okay? That's the wastewater funds, capital expense is going to be $7.8 million. But we need to clearly show that, of that $7.8 million, X dollars are going to be paid by somebody else, the county, our other wastewater treatment partners, and then wherever else that may apply. So people, when they see that 50 million and they see that our partners are picking up a substantial amount of that, which is millions and millions of dollars, his 2.8% and our 2.8% or whatever it ends up being doesn't get lost in the details, right? Because people, when they look at that, they see $7.8 million. They don't see that our partners are going to probably pick up about $5 million of that. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
this is, I mean, this is the way it's always been done. I get it. So this is, conceptually and philosophically, it's a big change in the way that we should be presenting data. Always available for questions, but going forward, I want to see this broken out. I'd also like to see it broken out on this 5-year forecast as well. I mean, we really should have line items in here below like phase 4 that shows, okay, our partners are going to pay X million dollars. Again, these are budget documents. I appreciate that our governmental accounting standards require us to do something else. That's for audit purposes. This is a budget discussion. So I see them as two distinctly different things. So thank you. And don't misunderstand my tone. I mean, we haven't even met. I get very passionate about the budget, so don't misinterpret or misunderstanding what my tone may or may not be. So thank you.
Okay, so any other questions before we start going through each project by department in the Capitol? Okay, so starting with building and grounds, so this is the upgrade of the audio-visual in the convention center. This has actually been in the CIP the last 2 years, but has continued to be pushed, and we do have clientele that have a lot of different needs that utilize this facility, and it is time. I think we were all at the Chambers event that they held there, and we had a little hiccup with the screen. So I think that's a good example of it. It really does need an upgrade. So that's $150,000.
Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner Gossett?
Thank you for mentioning this. It is an upgrade that's been needed for a while. But a parallel conversation that I would like to have at some point, and it may be covered in fees and fines upcoming, but is there been any investigation of evaluating the current rental fees for the convention center and expense versus revenue in this regard? I know we're really a public service and kind of a social hall, and I understand that and who our clients are. But just a look at when the last time those fees were evaluated with regards to also overhead, staff cost, power, all those types of things that figure into that. So just an evaluation. I'm not saying the fees are out of line, but I just think it's a time to investigate the expenses versus the revenue and the improvements.
Yeah.
I just want to say I agree with you 100%. We invest an awful lot in there, the roofing, the HVAC systems and everything. And I just want to ditto what Commissioner Gossett said.
Mayor, if I could. So
Did you want to respond or? No.
We've evaluated it and had discussions about it, but we definitely can further that into an action plan.
Well, even if you were just to give us an executive summary of those discussions of what resulted and what decisions are suggested or made or something of that nature. I'm glad that those discussions are taking place, but I would like to be informed about those and the results. And again, I know we have contracts in place, so we're not going to raise rates in the next 12 to 18 months of existing contracts, but certainly going forward, I think that's something that we need to look at and just advise us as to what is happening.
Thank you, Commissioner Thayer.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm just quickly looking through the budget, so I'll look at Julia. And you're new, so if you don't know the answer to this question. Do we have a separate department for Convention Center? No. Okay. So I think a quick win here could be creating a separate department for the Convention Center where we could show Commissioner Gossett, I think, and I'm interested as well, I don't want to pick on Commissioner Gossett here, but I'd be interested to see, right, how much revenue are we bringing in for the Convention Center and what are our expenses? And are we making money? Are we breaking even? Are we not making money? And it needs to include, you know, we're about to invest $150,000 in this, and again, when I say this, the Convention Center audiovisual. But that could be a good way for us to at least start to get an understanding whether we're making money on this or not.
And if I may, I don't necessarily need that we should be making money on this, because I think it is, in essence, a public service that we have and offering this to organizations. But I would feel much better if we investigated and at least we are breaking even and the investments in this. Again, we have profit, organizations, for-profit, nonprofit rates, this type of thing, which I think are all applicable. But again, I just would just like the investigation to take place and report back as to any changes that might be suggested or in future years. Thank you.
I think Commissioner Gossett and I are the only two here that have gone through these discussions before, and it was rather robust, if I recall, because, yes, we don't want to be a profit center necessarily, but we've got the auction people here that probably make a good profit on it, and yet we don't. At that time we discussed it, we didn't want to have the same rate structure for the nonprofits and everything. So it I think is a lengthier discussion than you might think, but it's Commissioner Gossett, go ahead.
I'd just say that I think that discussion, to be honest with you, needs to be held by staff. They're the ones that deal with this on a day-to-day basis, know the contracts, know the inquiries, and what's available, and the overhead, the staff time. So again, just that executive summary at some point in the future of those discussions have taken place and if there are any results that, staff suggest or moving forward on it. This is one of the things that I have been striving for over years, to get this a separate fee and fine schedule that we can look at this as opposed to being embedded in the code itself, so that we have this tool to review those on an individual basis. And we have certainly received comments and suggestions of changes in the fees and fines, and that we'll review those at a later date. But again, I think these are just these conversations. This is staff responsibility. Again, they are aware of what is going on, and to report back to us as this is why we've made this decision, bottom line. Thank you.
Any members of the public have anything to say? I think, so we've got so few of you there. Raise your hand when it's appropriate. We don't inadvertently skip over you. Carolyn?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I think the convention center rates may have gone up for '25. I was trying to remember, but I think what Main Street has paid for events did change in '25, but I'm not 100% certain. Thanks.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anybody else?
Only that,
Commissioner Saunders?
that opens up a conversation, why does Main Street pay anything? And maybe we need to have that conversation too. We're giving money to Main Street and they're giving it back to us. Perhaps we need a deeper discussion of what becomes, nonprofit and what has no charge, opposed to the profit organizations that we charge. Just something for conversation.
Yes, and
Thank you.
we will be investigating this and bring back to you, yes.
Thank you. Taylor?
All right, so the next project in Building and Grounds is installation of accessible push buttons for this room specifically. This is phase 2 of our accessibility push button plan for this floor. Phase 1 was installing them on the restrooms around the corner, and this will again help our residents and visitors that need that option to come watch your meetings. and it's $20,000. Moving to comfort stations, so we still have punch list items for the beach patrol, so this is carryover from this year. This will be work on all of those upper railings. They are not meeting our standards, and then redoing all of the flooring on the upper level. It did not work out. So this will be done by Memorial Day within the April and May timeframe.
Can you, yeah,
Wait
go
a
ahead,
minute,
Mark.
Commissioner Saunders.
Is this considered an override, or is this $200,000 from last year's budget that we're carrying forward? I'm not clear what this money is.
Right, so we are carrying that forward, and the actual cost of beach patrol in this fiscal year, we came in way lower than what we budgeted. Henry might have something else to add on that, but we did very well.
This 200,000 is this year's.
Correct.
But let's, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Commissioner.
Are you done, Mark? I'm done. Okay, so let's rewind, okay? Because I think it's really important that, again, I got a question here. You're saying you're coming in way lower. But are you coming in way lower because we budgeted dollars for this and we ended up using debt service to pay for it? Or did the total cost of the building come in less than what was originally budgeted? I know that's not the case, right? Because the last presentation we got, we were at least $500,000 or $600,000 over budget on the beach patrol station. Right, I'm looking at comfort stations here, right? And again, I'm not sure if people have this document, but there's a document that I'm currently looking at that says, and it'll get posted after the meeting. It says FY 2026 current budget, capital budget projection. So this is the current fiscal year. It's projecting basically what, whether we're going to be over or under on specific capital items. So again, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a line that says comfort station. So is that the line I should be looking at, comfort stations?
Yes.
Okay. So the revised budget was 2.483 million, which to me says that was the amount of
The loan
that was
proceeds that we
the
put
loan
in
proceeds.
last
Okay.
budget.
But you don't get to use the loan proceeds, right? Okay, that doesn't become a slush fund for you to use, right? Those loan proceeds go to pay for the building itself.
So if you look, we paid.
And let me restate that, right? So those loan proceeds should go to the balance sheet into our fund balance, right? It doesn't become a slush fund, right?
Correct.
And when it's in that balance sheet, those funds are then used to pay for the construction.
Correct.
Okay. So where I'm struggling is that the last presentation we had, and again, my numbers are probably off here, but I think the total cost of the building was projected around 5.7 million. The original budget was 5 million. So I'm struggling with how we could be under budget. And we may be under budget for that year, okay? But this is a multi-year project. So if we look at that as we should, which as a multi-year project, that was originally budgeted for 5 million, actually less than 5 million, 4.9 and change. As the last presentation I saw, you're gonna spend 5.7, you're 700,000 over. So now you wanna spend another 200,000, so this project's gonna be 900,000 over. So let me stop there. I think what we need, and again, I'm not opposed to this, but I've got another set of questions. You got to come back in and give us an updated presentation on the beach patrol, okay? Like the last one that you did, which was similar to multiple that you've done, where you come in, you show us total costs, all the change orders. And when I say total costs, this was the budget. This is where we think it's going to end up. When you were in here 6 months ago or 7 months ago and gave us this presentation, this is where we thought we were going to be 7 months ago. This is where we think we're going to be today, including this 200,000. So I feel that needs to be done, okay? Because there's just, again, we could spend the next hour diving into this. I don't want to spend the next hour diving into this. I think there's just a much easier approach, which is you come back and you give us an update on the beach patrol station. Why don't we like the floors?
They're falling apart.
So,
That's why it's a punch list item.
So why are we paying for floors that are falling apart?
Well,
we're not paying for floors that are falling apart. We have, I think, about $700,000 left in pay app for, that is due to Delmar Veteran Builders, and we're not gonna pay anything in the pay app that is not to standard. So this 200,000 is,
Money that has been withheld that we're not going to pay until it's fixed.
like example, like Taylor mentioned, the city manager mentioned the railings. If you go take a look there, the ones along the sidewalk are in good shape. They've been conditioned well. But the ones on the building, like on the second floor, on the second deck, the vendor is actually going to have to take those out and recondition them. And other ones, we're going to wait till it's a little warmer in order for them to recondition. So this 200,000 will actually go down. And for 2026, we are under budget. You're correct in what you said. The total cost is roughly 5.7 million. It's not going to be 5.9 million. With allowances and contingencies, it'll actually be down a little bit. Like you said, we do owe you a presentation. I was waiting until we were either finished or closer to finish with our pay apps, and our change orders have been minimal, and we've been actually using the contingencies, the built-in contingencies to pay for some of the change orders. But we will do a.
Okay, so let's do the following. You're not going to make the next budget meeting? Is that what I understood? One of the budget meetings, you're not available?
The next one.
Next one, okay. So why don't we, not the next one, why don't we, the following one, when you do your presentation, your departmental presentation, why don't you do something on the beach patrol, okay? I understand what you're saying, okay? But my concern is that there's not a lot of people in the audience, so I'm pointing to the camera. The people who are listening online or in the audience aren't following. So let's do the presentation so that everyone kind of can understand that you're not asking for an additional 200,000, right? This is kind of get back into this whole, government accounting standards, if, I'm following you correctly, right? But let's make it clear to everyone that you're not asking for another 200,000, okay? This is a replacement of floor that somebody else is going to pay for, is what I believe I'm hearing you say. And if you give this full presentation update, it should demonstrate that to us.
Sure. Well, the 200,000 is, again, it's money that we're withholding. I'm not going to say withholding, but we're not paying the pay apps until basically, our construction manager and I come to agreement that the work is done to satisfaction.
Understand, and that's going to fall in 2027, so we need to have $200,000 in 2027 to pay for that.
Yeah. And
right?
hopefully by March, that number will actually go down.
Okay.
But I figured discussions with EDIS that the 200,000 is a good number to start.
Understand. So just back to perception is reality. Bring us an update presentation. Everyone, then I think it'll be very clear to everyone that you're not asking for another $200,000.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does, Commissioner.
And it doesn't have to be an extensive presentation. You can keep it abbreviated, at least for my purposes. So, thank you. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Taylor?
Okay, moving to Streets Department. So this is one of our regular replacements of one of the trash trucks, specifically M5. That's $325,000. We also have a leaf vacuum, which is self-operated. This one's very exciting because it's completely self-contained. So in addition to the two that we currently have, this one can be driven by a non-CDL driver and can just be operated by one person, and it's automated, so it would just suck up the leaves without them getting out. So this will greatly improve our leaf program.
Are you done?
Just a question on that.
Commissioner Gossett, go ahead.
Thank you. You commented a non-CDL driver. Could you expand on why that makes a difference?
So with our staff, we have several CDL drivers, but we also have others that are not. So this would provide flexibility Henry can expand on that. We do our own CDL program. Art in the fleet department actually runs our CDL training program and saves the city a lot of money by doing it in-house.
Yeah, that's very well said, Taylor. Our current two leaf vacs require two people, and one is a CDL driver to operate. We're not intending to replace those, but like Taylor said, that gives flexibility of, say, during non-leaf pickup season, we get a call and we realize we have a large pile that we have to go pick up. This will just be a lot more, provide a lot more flexibility and ease of.
So just maybe carry that forward is not all of our staff members in the streets department are CDL or drivers, is that?
That's definitely correct.
So you would have the flexibility of just pulling an individual or a staff member to operate this vehicle as opposed to having a CDL driver do this?
That's correct.
And is there also a pay differential between a CDL driver and a non-CDL driver?
Yes, there is. The
Okay,
CDLs.
so there's a cost savings in many ways in doing this. Okay, thank you.
I might add, since Evan stepped out, he also volunteered to go pick up some leaves with this, so.
Got to test them out. Boys and their toys.
Moving to the beach rake refurbishment. So we have 2 beach rakes, and we alternate every year to refurbish one of those beach rakes. And this is $22,000, and it's much lower than purchasing a new one. And when it's refurbished, it comes back in like new condition. So they serve us well. Moving to the next item, this is the Public Works facility. So out at the Streets Department where our trash refuse operators work out of, this would be designed for a new facility. This facility is old. It does not have proper restrooms or really in good shape break room. So again, this is part of our quest to improve the working conditions for all of our employees. Henry, do you have anything else you'd like to add on this project?
No.
We're not there yet, but I'm just going to make a brief mention that we're not at capital improvement program or 5-year capital improvement program. But when we get there, I'd like to review this and make sure that we're putting an adequate amount of money in to this so that it gets done within a reasonable amount of time. We've upgraded our facilities here, the City Hall. When did we put people in here, Patrick? Maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And it was sorely needed, but it's a Public Works facility as well as some other buildings you're going to get to later are sorely needed too. And I just want to make sure that we have the funds to expedite, not do the design and then stagnate a little bit. Thank you.
Moving to our citywide paving program. So this next fiscal year, we are looking at paving Sussex Street between 3rd and 5th, and that would coincide with the main replacement and curb work. The main replacement is another project that I'll get into with the water CIP.
Mayor, if I
Commissioner Gossett?
Thank you. If memory serves me correctly, in past years, we've had a budget of $400,000 for citywide paving programs. And I think that was the recommendation of a consultant we hired of an ongoing program. Is this increase based on what factors?
Commissioner, past couple of years, we've had 500,000, and we had a separate line item for the construction management and inspection costs. I lumped it into one. The Wallace Montgomery is about $85,000 or so, and I just made it an even 600,000.
So that the 600,000 then is a combination of existing expenses from last year. You said 500,000, but is that including the actual work plus management consultant or
Well, it's not a carryover from last year. I think
But I mean,
last year I actually,
comparing figures, if you will.
yeah, I actually had, I think 585,000, if memory serves me right.
Okay.
For this, but in the year prior, it was 500,000, I think 500,000 the year before. And then, but last year and this year, I did add, instead of the construction management and inspection costs being in a different line item in the engineering costs, I just put it into the capital improvement.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on this one as well.
Commissioner Galante?
I heard you say, Taylor and Henry, that the basis or the main reason for repaving Sussex is to coincide with the water main replacement. I'm curious if we have an inventory of the streets throughout the city, the times when they were most recently paved, and then an evaluation and a decision on when those streets will be paved, with also a factoring consideration on usage. There are certain streets that get a lot more usage than others, and I'm a little surprised just to see that this is the only street in the city that's being repaved next year.
With that, Commissioner, we take a look at the water main replacement. You know, at the same time, we don't want to pave a street and then 3 years later, you know, have to replace the water main. And Sussex Street was the decision to do that one was largely based on the water main, as well as there are several lead galvanized goosenecks on the service lines. So that's why we chose Sussex Street. And we do have an inventory that was done last year by Wallace Montgomery of the current condition of the streets, and it comes to a lot of factors in it. You know, age,
Usage, is that a
somewhat,
factor?
somewhat, and as well as, you know, amount of curb cuts, you know, patches in it.
Yeah. I'd really appreciate getting a copy of that inventory. Can you send it to me?
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you very much.
Taylor?
Any other questions on this item? Okay. So the next project we have planned is a storm sewer assessment and repairs near the Hemlepin Hotel and condos. So this area has been prone to flooding because if you see over in this area, so the storm sewer goes from here down and this way. This pipe is not sized large enough to handle the flow of water that comes off of that area. So ultimately, typically you would just upsize this pipe, but it would require a lot of removal of trees and sidewalk and other improvements that are in the way. So we would be adding a second pipe to go in the least impactful area, and then up above the dark purple. Henry, what is the dark purple?
Dark purple is a stormwater pipe that goes from Pennsylvania Avenue to Lake Avenue that we will line it. We did something similar this year at Stokely, going from Stokely Street at the west end to Silver Lake. So it's going to be the same kind of project, and we're lumping them together. And we actually are talking with the city manager and assistant city manager, where our intent is to apply for the $50,000 matching stormwater grant for this project.
And that's from DENREC.
From DENREC.
Yeah.
Commissioner Saunders?
I'm just, where does the water end up? Where does
In
that
their
pipe go?
parking garage and on the street.
Say it again. It ends up in the parking garage.
Silver
So,
in the lake.
so it goes through an outfall to,
Goes into the outfall. okay.
yeah.
Just go into Lake Gerard first? Lake Gerard first. Okay. This goes into Lake Gerard.
Oh, and then, okay, good. Thank you.
So another favorite, sidewalk repairs and replacement. So again, we are budgeting $100,000 this next fiscal year for this, but definitely open to your suggestions and ideas.
Well, let me go back for a minute to the street paving contract. Kershaw Engineering, I think Patrick was the one that did an analysis, and it was probably only like a 5-year plan or something. And I think it was implemented by Sharon Lynn. I thought it was an excellent idea to analyze and prioritize and go forward from there. And I don't remember it started at 400 or 450, but then it went to 500, and then it went to 550, and now it's at 600. And I can understand why. You know, you want to do a certain area, and why not while you're mobilized, do the extra half a mile or so. So I can understand that. But while that grows, we have not been doing anything for sidewalks. And I'm adamant at this point that we need to do more for our pedestrians and our visitors. You know, the CDP years ago used to have discontiguous sidewalks on there. And we still have discontiguous sidewalks after 10 years. First CDP was what, Patrick? 20 years ago, I think.
First CDP in 1996.
Yeah, you know, this 100,000 to me really doesn't cut it. I would say maybe double, and then it needs to go into the capital improvement program so that every year for the next X years, just like the street paving program, that we get in there and fix it. I tell you, I was love seeing the one that's pictured there across from the senior center and going down to the corner there, because trying to walk with my wife on that area in the mud and the dirt and then the street was very difficult. So I think we need to do more of these. We need to address those discontiguous sidewalks. The best example of a discontiguous sidewalk is go down to Bayard Street at St. Lawrence. Start walking toward the ocean on the north side. You're going to walk one property that has a sidewalk, concrete sidewalk. You're going to go to the second property that has a concrete sidewalk, and then you're going to go to 2 properties that have dirt. And then after that, you're going to go back to, I think maybe the remainder of the block has concrete sidewalk. Ridiculous. Have you ever stood there and looked at people pushing strollers? And they walk down, and what do? They go out into the street, and then they come back again. Carolyn, maybe you have some experience with it. But the point is, I think we need more consistent funding for those areas. There's also examples that need to be looked at down at Pennsylvania and North First Street, where you've got sidewalks going all the way to the property line at the corner, and then there's void and dirt just to where the intersection would be. And, you know, again, you go there and look at the dirt, and you'll see the pathway as people go out in the street and back again. So that's my point. Thank you. Commissioner Saunders?
I want to say I couldn't agree with the mayor more. The problem that we have with sidewalks, I think, that is if nobody complains, if nobody falls and calls the police, it doesn't get fixed. We really have no incentive for the homeowners to call in themselves and say, I need a new sidewalk, because of course they don't want to get the bill. I'd love to see some sort of a program where we would tell the owners that we would take care of fixing their sidewalks, for some sort of a small cost-sharing situation where they could have their sidewalks replaced by our contractor for X number of dollars, which would be substantially less than they would pay themselves, to encourage some homeowners to repair those that are badly in need. We talked just a few minutes ago about Sussex Street. Well, I can't think of a worse street than Sussex Street when it comes to sidewalks. It's a dot-dash system. There's a dot and a big dash and another dot. And I know it's how that happened. It was as it went residential, some commercial properties, condominiums, et cetera. But it's time to look at those as an overall project. And I really think we need to up our game when it comes to sidewalks. So I agree 100% with what the mayor said. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any members of the public? Nope.
Would anyone be interested in making a motion to double the amount of the sidewalk repairs for the next 5 years?
I'd make a motion.
Second.
We have a
We
motion.
didn't make it yet. I was going to say, I don't know if doubling it is enough. I would think 300,000. I would make a motion that we change our amount from 100,000 to 300,000 to be allotted towards sidewalk and sidewalk reconstruction.
Can you, friendly amendment, which there probably needs to be a process, right? Because I suspect if you're going to do what you had recommended, which I don't oppose, right, which is working, you know, you had mentioned allowing residents to come to the city, maybe do a cost share, comes back to, is this enough? So there probably needs to be some sort of system to prioritize.
How about we take it to the Streets Committee and ask them to come up with something by our next meeting? But in the meantime, just put the money aside that we're going to need for the budget.
Perfect.
I mean, I'm fine with leaving it alone until the next meeting and letting the city manager come back. Although you just suggested an amount. If you're happy with it, then
I
we
think
can
that
go
works,
forward.
and in a previous city that I had been, we did have a residential cost share program. I can pull that out, look at it, see if it works for us. But it's not uncommon in cities to have some kind of cost share program, so we definitely can develop some kind of program. But again, there's a lot of city sidewalks that we could probably use all of that money for as well, so.
I'd love to bring that to the Streets Committee and give the public the opportunity to come forth and give an opinion on it.
Certainly.
Wonderful.
We'll do that then. Thank you. If there's no objections, thank you. Thank you. Taylor, go ahead.
Okay, so another fan favorite is street lighting. So this would be completing Phase 2 and Phase 3 of our lighting plan. So Phase 2 are the sidewalks on Rehoboth Avenue, and then Phase 3 is the boardwalk. So Phase 1, which was recently completed, were the dimmable LEDs on the Rehoboth Avenue streetlights in the median and at the circle. So the difference between those lights, those are dark sky friendly lights because they are dimmable. They're 3000 K temperature, and but because they have the decorative globes on them, the light isn't necessarily exactly focused where it's going. So what we're looking at is currently we have 4 samples that are on order. We will put 2 on the boardwalk and 2 on Rehoboth Avenue so that you'll be able to see the types of lights that we're proposing to put out there. They are decorative, but they are dark sky compliant. So the light focuses where it needs to go, and that follows the theme of Commissioner Thier's committee that they've been talking about. So we are planning to replace all these lights and very excited about it.
Commissioner Gossip?
Thank you. Is there a schedule of this project as to beginning evaluation, completion? I know we had some hiccups with the median with regards to arms fitting and
So
that
this
type of
is
thing.
completely different because
Yeah.
it would be just replacing the luminaires at the top,
Okay.
which Apple Electric could do or another vendor. So this would not have significant roadblocks like fabricating arms that fit our poles.
And so do you anticipate 6 months by next season completion, or is there a time frame that's even been discussed?
Beacon Engineering is working on the bid sheets right now, and once we decide, once the decision is made on the fixture, we can finalize that and get it to them. I think getting it done by May 15th would be a little too ambitious. Probably, it would be after this season. And we do have the $80,000 grant, energy efficiency grant for the sidewalk lights. I think it's about 110 total. But they will be, because of that, they will be presented as 2 separate projects, one for the boardwalk and one for the sidewalk.
So is that 550 Phase 2 and 3, or is that just Phase 2?
Both.
Both, okay.
Mayor, if I could, please?
Commissioner there.
Yeah, so Julie, I think this is a good example, the $80,000 grant. So there is, and again, we're getting back to perception. There's a perception in the community that we don't apply for grants, or we don't apply for enough grants. So here, where we're budgeting, $500,000 to replace lights, if we could reflect in our budget documents that, hey, we're getting a grant for $80,000, then that is going to be $420 or whatever it is. I think would be very helpful, not just for all of us up here, but certainly for the community. So again, I appreciate this is a big change from the way we've presented things in the past. But again, I'll let you decide how it is best to communicate that. But if we could continue to consistently communicate that type of information, it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Okay, so moving on to the Delaware Avenue Stormwater Outfall Repairs and Replacement. As you can see, you can stick more than your hand into this outfall pipe, and it is in need of repair and replacement. We are going to be working with the state to try to perhaps include this in nourishment, but again, it's in terrible shape, so we wanted to include this in the budget. And Henry, do you have anything else you want to add about the condition?
No, just that Delaware Avenue is the worst, and it's so, the amount is so large because if you look at Delaware Avenue, that outfall, the invert on it is very low into the ocean compared to, say, Maryland or Virginia. So the amount of time a contractor would be able to work here is minimal during low tide. So, and like city manager said, we'll see if we could work with DENREC and Army Corps of Engineer on this, and if next year they do the beach nourishment, we would still have to pay for the other repairs, but I'm sure we could save on mobilization costs, which is pretty significant.
I think the original pipe was HDPE, and then at some point they had to do an extension, and it was cast iron. And this is the cast iron that's broken, right?
Yeah, yes, Mayor, it's ductile iron.
It's just,
And if you take a look at some of the others, you can see, if you walk along the beach, say like to Maryland Avenue, you can actually see where the transition goes from the HDPE to the ductile. But, I just pulled up the drawings, and I got to take a look at the drawings of where it goes. I'm also going to have, excuse me, I'm also going to have Caswell video. I had it once done a few months ago, but I'm going to have him do it again from the manhole at the boardwalk going toward the ocean. And they were last time they were able to go about 150 feet, and there was no issues there. So the main issues seem to be at the ocean. And the intent would be to replace this with HDPE, not ductile iron.
are we entertaining at all extending the pipes at all, or just the same? Because obviously beach nourishment, it limits beach nourishment. We can only go so far. We run into a huge problem years ago with the pipes being, or sand being put over top.
That'd be something, I've been in discussion with the Army, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers a couple months ago about it, and any decision on that would be, I believe that really is their call, that, like, say, when they did Maryland, that was, a decision made based on studies to extend it. And also I've been talking with Hans, the county engineer, about this also, because I know he was involved in, I think he said he was involved in Rehoboth in Maryland extensions quite a few years ago.
Patrick, did you, I think Patrick.
My question is just extensions of this. So this price is, keeping it as it is, there's no thought of any extensions of the further into the ocean, correct?
Yeah, yes, Commissioner, that would be definitely entertain it. We've been, the city manager, assistant city manager and I we're in a discussion with DenRec on a couple of items, and this is one of them that we brought up, and we asked them to do, if one of their engineers can come down when they're in the area. It needs to be replaced, there's no doubt about it, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on an engineering study for them to say, oh yeah, you need to replace it.
Thank you.
But the Army Corps of Engineer would definitely be involved in that's their jurisdiction on any extension.
And could you help us understand the benefit of extension?
Getting the water further out, making sure the pipe doesn't get clogged with sand, which this one is obviously getting clogged with sand with the holes.
You're beyond,
And it's-
beyond the wave action in that regards for the most part, if we extend it out, and that would cause, I guess, more action to outflow as opposed to battling the waves and the
Yes.
undertow and what have you.
Yeah.
So it clears the streets during a rainstorm or a situation like that, so it'd be much quicker to carry the water out into the ocean if it's not fighting itself coming back in.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, it limits the extent of what we can do for nourishment. Now, the unfortunate thing is we've got contract with the Army Corps of Engineer, and the template that they use now for beach nourishment goes to where it is. So we would have to modify that if we wanted any deeper beach, Commissioner.
First, we got to find the money. That's an unfunded.
Working on
The
it.
funds aren't there for the sand.
Working on
so.
that. Commissioner.
Extending the outfall is extremely expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Commissioner Thayer, did you have?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you had said. Are we going to need to replace other outfalls as well?
Rehoboth and Laurel, eventually, yes. That's, and I think as we get closer to the beach nourishment, if it happens next year, that would be something to do. They're nowhere near in as bad a shape as this one. And the thing about Rehoboth and Laurel, they'll be easier to replace. They have I believe Laurel does also the junction where the HDPE meets the ductile, and again, it would be just replacing it with HDPE, but they're also definitely higher than Rehoboth.
Okay, so would you be the next time they do sand, would you be recommending replacing Rehoboth and Laurel?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably, and again, I have been talking with the Army Corps of Engineers and DenRec about it, and with the costs on Delaware again would be significant compared to the others. The others should be relatively straightforward.
Okay. We should probably, I'm not sure if we should, I'm thinking we should probably have this in our 5-year plan.
Certainly, and that's exactly what I was just thinking. As we receive more information about when nourishment will in fact happen, if for those that don't recall, it was supposed to happen this year, but yes, so the soonest to include those would be at least next budget year after the FY27, and we'll definitely be cognizant of that.
Thank you. Did you have something? Commissioner?
I do. Yeah, before we
ahead.
get to fleet service, I have a little story to tell and a justification that I'm going to make for an additional capital expense for buildings and grounds that I think is important. And then I'm going to follow that up with a motion. Over the holiday break, we had a house full of little ones, and we enjoyed the playgrounds in the city of Rehoboth, including the playground at Stokely near Turtle Bridge. That playground does not have a fence around it, unlike the other playgrounds, the one down by Surf behind the Henlopen Hotel, as well as the playground behind and near the school by the parking lot where the pickleball courts are. While we were there with a house full of little ones from my house, there was another family that was there, and one of their 3 children wandered into the street. That playground is right on top of the street. I think we are playing with a potential accident. It is a well-used playground, and I think it's important that we secure that playground to ensure that little children do not wander into the street and then, God forbid, an accident happen. In addition, that playground, because of its proximity to Silver Lake, is full of Canadian geese, and the playground and the geese do their business all over the playground. So the kids are running around, and there are droppings from the birds. So I would like to make a motion to add an expense to buildings and ground to procure and install a fence for the Stokely playground. Can I get a second?
Do we really need a motion? Can we just, Taylor, can you just do that?
Certainly.
Would you mind?
I mean, I want it accomplished,
Let's
so
just-
whatever's the best way to accomplish it.
Let's just,
Okay.
is there any disagreement with it?
And we certainly can look and see if we can even accomplish that now, so.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what you do about the goose droppings. Was there a suggestion on the goose droppings?
I mean, I just think that with the fence being in place, the geese will have a lesser opportunity to go into the space.
Okay, so
Commissioner Gossett?
The weeds guy here, just a question. The fencing around Lake Gerard is a structural fence, if you will. I believe the fence around where the farmer's market is, Grove Park, is a split rail fence. Is there any delineation of fencing? I'll leave that up to you, but we're talking 2 different aspects. And I know we just replaced the split rail last year at a cost.
I think to
Match what
accomplish
we have
the,
at Gerard Park.
accomplish the goal of keeping the geese out would probably dictate, it'd probably be a picketed type fence.
As at
Yeah.
Lake Gerard? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris.
So we do have one expense for fleet service. So they are looking to add a service truck to our fleet. It would be an F-150 that could go on-site to do on-site repairs to things like trash trucks, things of that nature. So this is the upfront capitalized cost reduction for the lease and the upfitting of the vehicle.
Question, so this is a
Commissioner
one-year lease,
Saunders.
$20,000? It seemed like it was high for a lease, but low for a purchase.
So
where's the
it's,
$20,000.
so this is our initial payment for obtaining that vehicle, and then the upfitting with racks and bins and things of that nature.
Yeah, correct. For the other departments, we have designated auto lease accounts. Fleet Services was a newly created department a couple years ago. We did not establish an auto lease account for Fleet Services, so until we do that, we've put it in capital. Once we create that auto lease account, we will rebudget that into the auto lease. But it's a 5-year lease. Again, this is just the first year's lease payment plus a percentage of the upfit cost that we have to pay for the first year.
Thank you. Mayor?
Commissioner Thayer?
So is this a net new vehicle or is this replacing?
It is a net new vehicle, yes.
Why?
We took a little bit to this. So they currently have a Ford Ranger that has been passed down to them from a previous department. The desire for this vehicle is to be able to be used not only to pick up parts, but more importantly, to have a vehicle that can go onto the beach to service. As Taylor said, we operate the tractors that not only pull the trash wagons, but also the beach rakes. Right now, the vehicle that they have, they cannot access the beach using that vehicle. And so what they're doing is they're taking tools from that vehicle and physically carrying them down onto the beach to service those vehicles or those tractors. So this vehicle would be designed to be able to easily access the beach and other areas to be able to do services on site.
So eventually that, I think it's a 1997 Ford Ranger 2-wheel drive would go away.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So fair enough. I mean, so it's eventually becomes a replacement vehicle. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Taylor?
So related to beach patrol, we're recommending a UTV replacement of about 19,500. So this would replace a 6-year-old ATV, and this would join our older model UTV that's utilized by our EMTs to service people on the beach, and definitely helps us keep our high standards for safety. And then we are looking at 5 beach wheelchairs. We are going to try to get legislator CTF funds for this if we don't have another project to use them on. But again, it's $7,000 for those PVC wheelchairs.
We used to have a donation program where people would pay for it. I think at the time it was $1,000 or $1,250 or something. Rehoboth Beach Homeowners Association and other groups gave monies. They would have the monogram store stitch into the back of the seat the name of the donor, so to give them a little credit and everything. So I don't know if there's a potential source of income there for sponsoring these things. Commissioner, there.
So this question is because of the picture, but there is a new style of like a beach wheelchair that you may or may not be familiar with. It's 3 wheels. It kind of has a sling. Where the person sits is more like a sling than where this is a cushion. One of the advantages is you can get it much closer to the water. It's designed to be able to go closer to the water. I'll send you a link to it. I'm not saying you should get one of those. I'm all asking you is just to consider it. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you. Taylor?
All right, moving to the parking department. So we are looking at obtaining a Go4 Interceptor patrol vehicle. As you know, our streets are fairly narrow. We have lots of people parking during the height of the summer season, and this vehicle is much more nimble and would be easier to patrol. So this would be outfitted with our LPR technology, like the full-size Bronco Sport that we have and the Escape that we have. And so this would be a pilot program to try this out to see if we want to further transition to these vehicles. It would be a gas-powered vehicle. They do make an EV option, but we felt that the gas would be better because they are driving around all day long. And so we are planning to try this out on permit enforcement and then also testing it out with places like Rehoboth Avenue meters, things like that.
And the reason for not going electric is because you think they would have to stop midway and charge it?
Certainly that. The other concern is that the LPR equipment itself, I mean, it powers computers, camera equipment, lighting, and so just the draw on that power alone is significant. And so with an electric vehicle, it just wouldn't have the power enough to be able to operate the vehicle all day long, but then also sustain all the equipment that comes with it.
It's not comparable to an actual EV passenger vehicle, which has a much larger kilowatt battery. So I do agree with Evan that the gas in this application is best for us. But it is a smaller motor than the traditional vehicles we have, so it would have less emissions.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Galante?
is there an opportunity to lease this vehicle? It seems like a big capital expense for something that we're not yet sure we're going to really like. I mean, I understand the justification, but you know, it's a big number, and if we're not going to fully embrace this, I'm curious, you know, about a lease.
Yeah, so Evan will check. And the other thing, we did have the vendor bring one out. We had the parking department take it around the block. And it seems exactly what we need, but yeah, we'll look at if there's any lease options. All right, so police department. So we have been talking a lot about speed lately, and I thought it would be prudent to include funding for additional speed trailers. So this would be for 2 of them, $36,000 total. And then those are mobile, and we could put anywhere, but we're also budgeting for additional speed radar signs, which are a lower cost, and you can move those from pole to pole if you'd like. They are solar. So we also budgeted the 6,000 for those.
Mr. Mayor?
So how many speed trailers, how many
I believe it's
static ones on
two
signposts?
speed trailers and 3 signs, Evan?
Yes.
3, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Lanning?
The permanent affixed speed signs, I would like to see an increase in this. This is a major issue for a lot of our residents, and I can think of at least 3 spots where we would want to put these. And based on our conversation with Peter Haig from DelDOT, which was a really super good use of time, why don't we increase these to 5? I think that there's places and opportunities for it, and our public is really calling for it.
Commissioner, are you talking about increasing the number of the static radar signs that are on
Correct,
posts?
Mr. Mayor, yes.
So the one pictured here, 6,000 is for 3, so we could up that. We could do 5. I just wanted to make sure we put this in here because I know it's a priority.
State, Bayard, Henlopen, King Charles, just right off the top of my head. I think 3 is insufficient.
I have no objection with
Yeah.
updating it. Commissioner
Had a
Gossett?
recent discussion at one of the meetings with regards to getting some paint on the street with 4-way stop signs, both King Charles, Henlopen, Columbia. Are these purchases have a aspect of made in conjunction with the plans discussed? I've not seen any schedule or implementation aspects of the discussion of 4-way stops and paint on the street and this type of thing. So I don't know kind of where that is, and is this decision to purchase these, what I'm not disagreeing with, but is that being made in conjunction with the plan discussed about 4-way stop signs, speed tables, more stop lines, this type of thing? Is this a coordinated discussion, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, certainly would be coordinated, as was mentioned. So Streets and Safety Committee's been talking about stop signs and speed limits, and so we just had that meeting this week with DelDOT. And so certainly as we begin to entertain areas where stop signs are going to be added, things like that, we will strategically place these in locations where it's likely that somebody will have an opportunity to speed up before they get to another stop sign. So all of this will be in conjunction with Streets and Safety Committee recommendations and locating them.
And in addition with this, also, there are newer stop signs out that we've seen paralleling what we use at the circle of the flashing yellow solar-powered. There are stop signs that are offer that same mechanism, and I don't know if those are being considered. I don't see it in the budget, but if those are being considered.
They are being considered. We've had discussions about it, and I think if and when we move to adding 4-way stops where we currently have 2-way stops, that would be an excellent location to put those.
I'm sorry, but I pause at your comment of if or when. I thought the decision was made to implement 4-way stops at certain intersections. So again, I've not seen a schedule on that, but my impression in leaving the last meeting was that we were going to make these implementation of 4-way stops, paint on the street, prior to the beginning of the season. So I'll just leave it at that, but I would hope to see an actual schedule in place prior to the beginning of the season so that these speeding and safety issues could be addressed before the season.
Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders?
It's on the way. We actually were prepared to make a presentation from the Streets Committee. However, we had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Haig from DelDOT, so we held off. And then, of course, I missed the deadline. So that was the reason that we don't have something more concrete. But it's in the works, and there'll be a meeting next Thursday to solidify the recommendations to come to this board.
Thank you.
Again, I don't disqualify any of the determinations or suggestions or motions by the committees, but I felt we had made the decision of implementing this program prior to the season to get paint on the streets for stop lines, for 4-way stops, et cetera. So I would hope that, no, I'm no more than hope, but, time gets short by the time that the season is open or our season happens. I would need to see a implementation plan with calendar, with deadlines, that this will happen before the beginning of the season. That's the impression I left our last meeting with when we took a vote on this to support the recommendations that were presented to the commission by the Safety Committee and go in that direction.
We didn't actually make the recommendations. We came to the board and asked for the okay to have discussions, and I believe that's what you're probably thinking of. that we voted on.
Mayor,
No,
if I could?
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop the conversation. You are right. Let's get Marco, if you don't mind, to look up those minutes to see exactly
Certainly.
what we voted on.
yes.
Because we did
Regardless,
vote
we're all on the same
to
side.
act on something.
Mayor, if I could?
Commissioner Thayer?
Yeah, and my recollection is the same as Commissioner Gossett's, but what I think I'm hearing you say, Commissioner Saunders, is at the, it's not a workshop meeting anymore, the first commissioner meeting in the month, you're going to make a presentation. I think what we'd be looking for is, you're going to recommend execution is over here. He'll commit to executing on, I don't want to say it's Commissioner Gossett's timeline, but again, it's my recollection of the timeline that we'll get it done before the summer. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And that was
We're
my
all on the same page?
recollection at the next
Okay,
meeting.
great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Galante?
at the risk of beating a dead horse at this point, I wholeheartedly foot stomp times two what Commissioner Gossett said. This is a very big issue for our residents. My recollection of the meeting was that we voted on infrastructure changes that would help to facilitate and expedite pedestrian safety, right? That's really what we're talking about. We're talking about trying to secure the safety of our residents and our visitors. So I encourage us to go back, confirm that, and then look and work with staff to establish a list of specific projects and places that's going to be where those changes are going to be made.
Thank you. Taylor?
Okay, I think we are over halfway now. So moving to the wastewater department. So miscellaneous pump replacements, this is for pump stations and areas where the effluent is going out to the outfalls. This is an annual replacement. The next project is sanitary sewer system cleaning, and then also cammering the lines. This is, again, another annual CIP item of $30,000. And again, you're very familiar with the Phase 4 treatment plant upgrades. You recently awarded a bid on this, so this is going to be a great improvement. The picture on the right is actually our lab, which is kind of stuck in the 1970s and has seen much better days. So more on that building in a moment.
Question on that? Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders?
I'm looking at $7 million. I thought that we were higher than that. Is this a partial?
We were initially thinking it was going to be 9 for this year, but with the, we were delayed about a month and a half or 2 months in the, again, because I'm sure you remember that because we only received the one bid from Ronca and did some investigation with that. So, based on that and discussion with GHD, $7 million is a good number. But this, I forget how much is in next year. There'll be some more in 2020, FY 2028, and finishing in 2029.
It's still the
Commissioner
total,
Thayer?
yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's still the total of 21.8 million that he had shared with us, so.
Yeah.
And that's a firm contract, right?
Right, that's a
Short
firm
of-
contract minus any potential change orders.
Okay.
And I believe what I budgeted in there, I also include, well, what I budget in here and in the future years also includes the construction management and inspection costs.
And I think, Mayor, if I could,
Go ahead.
I think it's important to note that of that 21.8 million, the city will be responsible for 30 to 35% of that. So we'll be responsible for about 7 million-ish, maybe plus or minus, of the 21 million. So again, this is one of those, points of clarification. Yes, the project's 21.8 million, but the city is only responsible for about 7 million of that project. So Julia, again, thank you.
So the next project I want to highlight is refurbishing the Hickman Street pump station. So this is located in Country Club Estates. It is original to that development, and it's in desperate need of refurbishment or replacement. So this is another large expense, but is desperately needed.
Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner Gossett?
Yeah, regards this Hickman Street, may have missed it, I'm sorry, it's out of the room, but how many pump stations do we have in the city, or do we service responsible for and own?
There's 7 total.
7.
2 in North Shores, the State Road Pump Station, and then 4 others throughout.
And do we have an evaluation of all of those? I mean, we had an emergency repair that was very extensive and rebuilding of State Road. And is there a program at all as looking at the conditions of these pump stations over the next 5 to 10 years of either refurbishment or updating, upgrading, technology changes, this type of thing?
Well, we've done some, say, in this past year for North Shores, we did replace the the PLCs in one of them, and Hickman Street is definitely in the worst shape of any of them. And we were also looking at a valve replacement of different in the pump stations, and that will be. But we determined we can wait on that a little bit. This is more important, and then in subsequent years, I'll probably have some money. Probably come to you requesting some money next year for valve replacement. But we will.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but we do evaluate it, and we will.
I just, thinking through this, I know we've considered and perhaps approved additional monies for sidewalk repair. But not to be funny about it, pump stations and sewer will affect more people than sidewalks. So I just think that we need to be very cognizant of the stability of the infrastructure in these pump stations, and having a plan going forward 3 to 5 years, or if we have 7 pump stations, every year we look at a specific pump station to know that it is in working order and up to date with the latest technology, if you will. If the sewer malfunctions, we're going to hear a lot about it. I know we hear bits and pieces about broken sidewalks, and they're understandable, but I think this is something that should take equal, if not higher, priority for investigation for the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner.
All right, moving on to the water department. So our first project to highlight here is the well 6 replacement. So we have been working closely with BU Medical Center right now on the design, and this would be, the funds for this project would be for design and a test well, and it would not be ready for summer. But again, this has been a process of trying to replace this well and make sure that we have adequate water supply. Our annual water meter replacements, so this is for the automated metering infrastructure, so these meters would be digitally read. We've been working to replace these the last several years. We currently do not have the locations at this time, but in about 1 to 2 months, we'll select locations for where the water meters would be replaced. Moving on to our next project, so this is the Sussex Street water main replacement. This would be between 3rd and 4th Street, and on 3rd and 4th Street would be including the service lines and the water main, and then between 4th and 5th, it would just be the service lines. And that would coincide with the timing of the road project. This would occur first, and then the paving.
And this would be outside contractors or in our own staff doing this?
Outside contractors.
Great. And is there a time frame that this has been determined, that it will start and finish?
I'll probably come to you with the bids in August to start sometime after September 15th with the intent, I believe it's in the contract, to finish basically by Thanksgiving, weather permitting.
Thank you.
Okay, so at the Lynch Wells, we do have the carbon filter media at Lynch Wells. So what we have found is that carbon now needs to be replaced yearly. So that is $250,000. We replaced the carbon this last year. It needs to be replaced again. The good thing is if we are replacing it yearly, we do get a credit for the media that's changed out because it can be recharged, refreshed. But previously, our carbon was past the point of that. So this way, we'll be able to continue to change it out.
Mayor, if I may, just curious, how is it determined that the carbon is no longer effective? Or, again, my memory goes back that they were initially 3 to 4 years on carbon or not? Am I misremembering that? Anyway, just how do we determine that the carbon needs replacement and
The tanks are in series where the water comes in, it comes into the top of one, down, and then up to the top of the other one, and there's sample points at different areas. So it's term is breakthrough, where if you do samples and you have PFAS at the top of the second tank, you have breakthrough through the first tank. And that is
this
kind
is
of the determination.
constant monitoring process that goes on?
No, samples are done monthly or quarterly, I forgot, but the sampling for PFAS is it's expensive. And like the city manager said, if we replace it soon enough, they can regenerate the carbon, and then we get charged significantly less. And this 250 is based on a full replacement.
Now, we've also received, I believe, PFAS payments, and are they offsetting this, or how is there
So
a
I will
connection?
get into that when we go to the further
Okay.
carbon filtering in a couple slides. So the next project is the Lynch Plant High Lift and Transfer Pump Rehab. So we do need to rehab those pumps. Anything else to add, Henry?
No, it's an annual, there's several pumps there. We refurb several, we do it on a rotating basis.
And similarly, with well 2R, we also have to do maintenance on that of $30,000. And that includes the well and the pump. This next item, this was strongly recommended by the EPA audit verbally, but we are actually able to accomplish changing out the chemical analyzers this year in our current budget, so this will be removed for the next presentation. So the first piece of our further PFAS treatment upgrade is design. So we're budgeting $75,000 for design so that we will be able to have additional filter media tanks and piping, which on this next slide, so this is $2.6 million to go ahead and move forward with the Calgon carbon media tanks and filtering system. This will bring us in line for all of our water supply to meet the new EPA standards. If you recall, I believe the EPA actually moved back their deadline to 2031, but the state did not. So, but again, we want to be at the forefront of ensuring that our water is wonderful. And we will be utilizing carryover dollars from our fund balance in the water fund to pay for this project and the settlement money. So we believe we'll, and Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong, we've received over $1 million in settlement money thus far. I believe we will receive a total of 1.7.
Yes, we've received approximately 1.4, I believe, and we should be receiving payments next year and until 2033, I believe.
Yeah, but those upfront payments were larger
Yes.
by design. And again, I recall last year in our budget meetings, a resident got up at public comment and was asking why we had $9 million in the water fund, and this is why, to do projects like this. And it won't affect rates because the ratepayers have built up that fund, so now we can continue to make improvements to the system and continue supplying water at the same price.
Quick question, if I could, Mayor?
Commissioner Thier?
Total cost for the PFAS. Oh, sorry. Total cost for the PFAS. I recall when we originally started talking about this, we thought it was around $4.5 or $5 million. Is putting aside the money we're getting back, what is it still that amount, or is something less than that?
Hopefully between 4 and 5, or excuse me, 4 and 4.5.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to follow this year's, and then what's in there. So, okay, great, thank you.
And then again, pump rehab and well rehab on well 10. So the water department building. So part of phase 4 includes a new building for the wastewater department, and we would like to enhance that building to incorporate the water department in just that one singular facility. So as you can see, they have a small old office that they're currently operating out of. So this would create a joint water wastewater administration office as part of phase 4. So this extra $100,000 would do that.
Well, my comment would be like the Public Works street and street facility that we want to replace. I would want to make sure there's enough money in there for the design and at that point going forward without any losing any momentum. Now, you indicated to me earlier, I think, that the phase 4 of the wastewater, that $7 million, includes some of that money. If not, then I would like to add more money in there. The point is, wherever the money comes from, I would like enough in there so that we can show our employees good faith that we're moving forward, it's going to be done in a reasonable amount of time.
Yes, so the phase 4 project includes the building. Originally, we were going to refurbish that facility, but it's much cheaper to actually build it new on the same footprint to avoid driving piles. But building new is significantly less expensive, so that's what we've been investigating. And as part of that, we can incorporate the water department in that building, and it would have proper break room, proper restrooms, and no mold, and be very nice.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next.
Moving to the IT department. So first, we have our annual computer life cycle replacements. So that's just our annual replacement of computers that have aged out or no longer serviceable. And then radio replacements. So annually, we do cycle radios. Various departments use them between beach patrol, police, parking, streets, water, and wastewater. So $20,000 for that. And then our annual copier replacements. So this is a contract on the multifunction scanner copiers that we have throughout all of our city facilities. And I believe this is for 2 replacements for this next fiscal year. And again, our battery backups for our various IT technology, $15,000. And then we also are including additional tablets for mobile workers. So this is actually for our field workers, and some replacement and some additional for water and wastewater. So when they're out in the field, they can get into their system, they can get on Munis, they can input things. And additionally, you know, with a code enforcement digital platform, that could also be something that they're able to utilize in the field too, but they already are.
Mayor?
Commissioner.
I mean, thank you. With regards to the IT department, I know we have installing and updating cameras throughout the city, and I don't see it in here, but is there any aspect or of upgrading the infrastructure in the sense of the cables that connect the cameras and putting cabling on the boardwalk, or is that addressed anywhere? Or we've talked about it, but I don't see any discussion in here. It may be elsewhere, but.
So that's actually in the money that we put in for fiber that I talked about earlier. So ultimately, the goal is to have fiber throughout the boardwalk and loop around the beach patrol. But currently, the new cameras that are installed on the boardwalk are cellular technology, and it's much more stable than the point-to-point that the existing cameras we're using.
So, I guess I wasn't there, but the fiber installation, is that reflected in the CIP or is elsewhere in the budget? I'm just curious. As long as it's in there, I'm just,
Yeah, so the fiber connectivity to some of the critical sites is in the capital budget, but in the IT's operating budget, we have plans for building out a fiber loop around the city to be able to connect not just city facilities, but access to the boardwalk and city hall, locations like that.
and is that a multi-year plan or is there,
Correct.
there
Yeah.
is? 2 years, 5 years, anything?
I would say at least a 2-year plan. We've at least had Crown Castle out on site to look at some of the existing infrastructure and how they would go about actually providing that loop. It looks like we're in a pretty good shape to be able to accept most of that infrastructure now. So maybe when we present the IT budget, we can give you an update on what that timeline looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Parks and Recreation. So this is a long-awaited project by many, I think, the dredging of Lake Gerard. So this would be dredging and dewatering. So that would include removal of what they call muck, and they put it in a bag where the water drains out, and then that's hauled off to the dump. And this was a recommendation by the Stormwater Management Plan, currently, I think the lake has continued to get shallower because of all of the built-up, degraded ecological things.
So it's 200,000 for the total package?
Yes.
Total package.
We had an outdated number that was much lower, so this one, we're feeling like this would accomplish the project.
Yeah, it's a total package, but it's only for 5% of the lake.
Correct. So, I mean, the area, you can see the key on the right-hand side, the sort of area outlined in red as the area to be dredged. There's an asterisk next to the 200,000 only because we're waiting for updated figures from Envirotech. I think the greatest complexity or the cost variance will be the dewatering of the material, but more importantly, the hauling and disposal of that material. There's, from what we heard from Envirotech, another project taking place in Lewis, and they have a site for disposal of the dredge material for that project in Lewis. So they were exploring the possibility of adding the dredge material from this project to that site, which they think is possible. So for right now, the 200,000 is an estimate, our best estimate, until we receive the updated figures from Envirotech.
I guess I'm wondering if there ought to be more money put in for additional engineering or a study of the rest of it. You know, if you look outside that area there, it's still only this deep. You watch great blue herons fly in there and you think they're going to sink all the way down or something. It's only 6 inches deep. And so I think we need a multi-year plan to see if we need to do the entirety of the lake. And if so, then we need to start putting monies in the capital program for that. I mean, this is a start. I don't want to stop it. We were ready to go with it, 5 years ago when Commissioner Legree was on here, and we ended up stopping it to get the stormwater program utilized. And so anyhow, that's my point. Commissioner Thier.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with the mayor. I don't oppose this piece, but I believe there needs to be a plan. And my first question would be, okay, great, we're going to dredge, but what are we doing to prevent future, future filling in of this, right? Silt sediment, because it's coming from somewhere. It's great that you're going to take it out, but it's just going to fill back up. So what's the plan to deal with that? And really, that's just a piece of what the mayor is, and again, I believe he's asking for, but I'll ask for my own words, which is, what's the plan to deal with this lake, right? To reduce the runoff, to reduce the sediment falling in there. I know we have 1 or 2 scepters in there, and this is really important. We talked about this Environmental Advisory Committee. What goes in this lake ends up at the beach. So I have probably incorrectly, from a communications perspective, said, hey, we need to have a lakes management plan. This is really part of a larger beach management plan, because what goes in this lake and what goes in Silver Lake ends up on the beach. So what are we doing to make sure we clean up this lake? And I agree with the mayor. I think there is a longer-term plan that needs to be developed here. I struggle a little bit because we're waiting on some sort of list of projects from one of our consultants around stormwater projects, so I don't know what's in there. But we need a plan for this lake, and we need a plan for Silver Lake. Silver Lake, I appreciate, is a little more difficult because we own it. It's controlled by multiple municipalities, right? But we control Lake Gerard, so we should be able to very easily come up with a plan and a path forward there. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Taylor, what does the asterisk behind the 200,000 figure mean?
We're waiting on an updated figure, but yeah.
Okay. So I think at least 2 of us are in agreement that we want more money so that we can continue to
Yeah, we'll definitely
man 'em
plan.
and keep the plan going.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Taylor.
As you're all familiar with, the Lake Gerard Fishing Pier, this was the donation by way of the VIA, Village Improvement Association, to replace the fishing pier with timber. So it will be completely replaced, and we're excited to get it done.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner?
Thank you. I believe the last number Bob Palmer, maybe I have the individual incorrect, gave us was like $258,000 for this project. So if we could fix this number or correct this number to that number that he gave us, unless you have some sort of, you've done a bid and you've got a proposal back, so.
Well, this seems to be one of those things like you were talking about earlier, that it's listed there, but the 200,000 or more is not coming 100% out of our pockets because we are getting a donation.
The donation's offsetting this funding. My recollection was putting it in the exact same space was under 200,000, and when it was moved, it was over 200.
Yeah. So there is just, all I'd ask you to do is I recall a conversation between myself, was it Bob Palmer? Is that who was
I
here?
believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
About what it's going to cost, because we've been showing this $200,000 number for a number of years, and he came back, or maybe gave you a number to come back at the following meeting, and the number was over 250,000. I asked him specifically, if I'm going to build this, what's it going to cost?
Sure.
And he said, give me some time to figure it out. So that's all. That was all part of a meeting. All I'd ask is go back. I'll go back as well, see what he said in that meeting, whatever that number is. Let's get the right number in here, and as the mayor said, let's show offsets. So.
Certainly.
Commissioner Gossett?
Exactly, just to, if you have the $200,000 figure here and just under it, donation, grant, whatever the offset money is listed right on the page so that we see these things,
Certainly.
so that everybody sees them, not just us. Thank you.
So that concludes our CIP projects to share for today. I'm happy to stand for any questions, and if not, I will turn it over to Evan to go through the fees and penalties schedule and recommended changes on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor.
Okay,
Oh, wait a minute, you're gonna go through page 130.
Page 111.
correct. So there is a support document provided in the agenda. It's the third support document titled Fee and Penalty Schedule, revised January 2026. I'll briefly go through the recommended changes to the schedule of fees and penalties. Commissioners will recall that we went through an effort recently to remove all fees and penalties from the city code and put those fees and penalties in what's called a schedule of fees and penalties. That document is available in the Civic Web. If you go in to view the city code, there is a section there on the left-hand side to be able to view schedules, fee schedules, and so this document is provided in that location. The schedule of fees and penalties and really the staff recommendations goes back, I believe, over a year now, actually prior to the removal of the fees and penalties from the code. We did have a schedule prepared, and city staff did go through and begin to make some initial recommendations for the mayor and commissioners. At the time, one of the focuses, and you'll see there are some proposed changes in here. At the time, some of the proposed changes were really centered around business license fees. There was discussion from some commissioners at the time, again, I think it was about 2 years ago, about budgeting additional revenue in that upcoming fiscal year budget for increases to business license fees. So that's where some of those recommendations initially came from. But I'll spend just a brief amount of time again going through some of the recommended changes. The discussion today is really just an introduction of these proposed recommendations. Certainly, we're here for any questions you might have, any other fees or penalties you want us to certainly take a look at. We're happy to do that, but these are just some of the initial recommendations.
I'd just like to interject, one of my greatest interests, or two of them are we covering the costs for everything?
Sure.
You know, what are our fees covering all our costs? And then for any of the changes, what is the logic behind those changes? Thank you.
So certainly staff recommendations, I mean, that's, you know, the costs associated with performing the service, certainly something that we keep in mind. Also, some of the recommendations are tied to what other communities are doing, just to kind of keep us in line, not just with other communities, neighboring communities, but also one of the first things you'll see in here is court costs, making sure that we're in alignment with JP courts and things like that. So first page, you'll see there is a recommendation to decrease the cost related to some of the court costs, trial or guilty plea, that's $35. That's just, again, to put ourselves in alignment with state courts. From the research that the alderman judge had done, excuse me, there are no other alderman courts charging fees that are greater than what the state charges. So it was just that section there we proposed to bring down into alignment with what the state's charging. On the second page, administrative fees, so this is labor costs related to FOIA requests. In there, we have a flat $20 an hour, but in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, we can charge the lowest hourly rate plus overhead for the lowest paid staff member capable of providing that service. So, you know, we'd have any number of staff members involved in conducting a FOIA request or responding to a FOIA request. So we propose to update the language as such. And again, the first 30 minutes just being sort of free for that time is sort of standard practice when responding to FOIA requests.
Question on that.
Sure.
Commissioner, go ahead.
You've taken out the $20 an hour, but haven't put one in. So when someone calls in and asks, how much is it? don't we need a number?
Yeah, so again, there's a number of staff that are involved. It depends on the request. It could involve building and licensing, IT, depending on, again, what the request is. It might need to go for legal review. So we are working, Marco and I are working on sort of a separate schedule, which is what are those lowest employees or paid employees in those departments that are capable of providing that service, so it can be just a quick reference whenever we're reviewing the request and we know who's involved in responding to it.
There will be a number eventually.
Correct.
If I may, Commissioner, yes, before any request is fulfilled, the individual does know exactly how much it's going to be.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to skip down to the next recommendation, which is on page 17. That's of the support document itself, not the agenda, the entire agenda support document. That again is the court costs. Again, here the fine amount was different, or the fee amount was different. As in the section above, you saw it was 50. So again, we're proposing to bring both those costs in alignment with state courts, and that's $35 for trial or guilty plea and $20 for a voluntary assessment. Skipping down to 24, page 24, I wanted to call this out only because this was an initial recommendation by Building and Licensing that was presented over a year ago. That change is still demonstrated here, but we are not proposing this change at that time. So in an updated presentation on the schedule of fees and penalties, we will remove that. We're proposing to keep the construction costs at 2% for 2% and 3%, not increase to the 3% and 4% as originally proposed. I neglected to make that change when I prepared the support document, so I apologize for that.
So we're going to remove both from 102-10. Schedule A construction is going to remain 2%, and Schedule B constructions remain 3%.
3%, correct.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Did we talk about maybe raising the $500? Because that seems like such a minimal amount. You can't, replace a couple of steps for less than $500. So maybe if that were $1,000, it would be a little more community friendly. What do you all think?
I was actually going to go in the opposite direction. There's, everything requires staff time. So I think, anything that requires staff time, there should be a cost to it.
Well, we could go a step further, though, and say that a permit's not required under $1,000, and then there'll be no staff time.
Well, then who determines what's less than $1,000, right?
Well, that's a
I
good
mean,
point. Yeah. Not much. Nope, nobody agrees, that's fine, we'll go on. That's fine, on to the next thing.
Moving on to page 26, you'll see that there are some proposed increases for plan reviews. Again, this just goes back to the concept before of wanting to make sure that we're recouping, actual costs related to plan review. As you all know, we have sort of 2.5 building inspectors now. I count Corey still as a building inspector, so 2.5 building inspectors, and then obviously ongoing consultation services for plan reviews and things like that. More plan reviews coming in, more time taken to review those plans. So again, just accurately trying to recap costs related to that. Moving on to page 28, this is where we begin the recommended fee increases for business license fees. 2 or maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we first presented schedule of fees and penalties, there was some discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners about increasing business license fees 20%. So that's what we had sort of reflected here, but also just, inflationary increases. So you'll see there's kind of just a standard increase across the board with business license fees, just to reflect that. And that carries through for the next few pages there.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner?
Evan, this one sort of sticks out to me, and I think about how sort of the mayor introduced this section of our agenda, and thinking about the costs that the city incurs for services. At the state level, we are prohibited from having an alcohol and food tax, and there are bars and restaurants in this town that are doing very well. They're really, really prospering, and they're making lots of money. And when I think about that in relation to the costs that we as a city are providing to perpetuate these businesses, from police to sanitation to all of the corresponding infrastructure costs, these numbers still feel low to me.
I really appreciate that comment, Commissioner, because, when we had originally proposed some of these increases, again, it was based on some of the guidance and recommendations from the board to increase it at least 20%. But at the time, we were sort of asked to justify the increases and specifically try and value what it cost the city to issue a business license. And we really took a step back and said, that's extremely hard to determine because it's not just the staff that are physically entering the license into Munis, receiving the paperwork, accepting the check, issuing the license, but it's all the added costs that you mentioned that goes into the police service that we provide to the businesses, code enforcement, et cetera. So your point is well taken. And again, this is just sort of an initial recommendation as, certainly a starting point for discussion. But if there's additional information that we can gather for you all that would be helpful for you to make a decision, please let us know. But your point is well taken.
I mean, a slightly different approach here would be to right-size the fee with the size of the facility. I mean, we have vastly different size bars and restaurants in this town, and I don't want to call any particular ones out, but there are some facilities that have, 10 tables, dining tables, and then there are others that have probably close to 50. So maybe doing it on a square foot percentage basis.
Sure, I think we can take a look at that.
I don't know.
Question?
Commissioner Saunders.
And Evan, am I correct that there's still also a parking permit component of this? Correct. So on top of that, they're receiving parking permits of value of $700, right, for a $300 fee, right?
Correct. Correct.
Before you go on to page 32, I see you have up there on page 29, I just wanted to query you about automatic slot machines, $78 per machine. Forgive me, I don't know, do we allow slot machines?
Only in Dover.
Yeah, so for me, it's a broader question. Have we kind of gone through this entire fee schedule with a fine-tooth comb to eliminate things that aren't possibilities?
Good point, Mayor. And then maybe Corey wants to make a comment. One of the additional pieces of information that we were putting together when trying to come up with some proposed changes to these fees was also, I think another piece of data that might be helpful is understanding of all the business license categories we have, license permits we have, how many are we issuing of each? You expect the restaurants to have a significantly high number, rental properties that have a high number. But I think that list would not only allow us to better understand how much staff time could be involved with issuing X number of permits, but more importantly, are there permit category or license categories that are just no longer applicable? And so I think that's a document that we can provide, and certainly we'll take a look at and use to kind of evaluate whether or not an increase is justifiable or just a complete removal of that license category makes sense. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to page 39. Did you want to add anything, Corey? Okay, gotcha.
I'm sorry, Evan, what page?
39. Actually, it might be a little bit further down here. Yes, actually on page 40, starts on 39 and page 40. This is where we start to get into water and sewer, specifically water connection charges. So you'll see we've updated some of the terminology here. Previously, we had in there excavation and replacement fee. We've changed that language to breakage because in most cases, what we're doing is we are excavating the street, we're performing that work to conduct the repair, but we are not making the street restoration. And so just updating the terminology there, again, proposing some increases to some of those fees, and in general, just removing costs related to water and sewer that includes work that we just simply don't do anymore. So that's what you'll see throughout these pages, again, related to some of the water and wastewater fee changes. In some of these cases, you'll see for requests for turn-ons, turn-offs, a lot of the times we can get requests last minute or sort of outside of normal hours. And so we've just implemented sort of a tiered fee recommendation there just based on when we receive that request. Just again, to recoup some of the costs. And then just moving on to page 47, which is actually the end. There are several fees that we charge but are not in the city code. Perfect example, we talked about this earlier, is the convention center rentals. I want to go back to that discussion earlier today because I do recall in 2019, we did have a committee that made recommendations to convention center rates. I will have to go back and check to see if any of those rates that were presented and approved at that time have changed since then. But these are the current rates. They're available on the city website. We just think it's important, again, to capture the fees in the schedule of fees and penalties just so we get them all in one place. So you'll see most of this is the convention center, renting of kitchen, which we do get requests for folks to rent just the kitchen, use the kitchen facilities, trash services, IT services related to that rental. Water meter tampering is another issue that the
Mayor,
utility.
if I could, please?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, while we're on convention center. So, back to covering the cost. Okay, so when I see, you can rent the entire convention center for $1,500 on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. If I go to a show there, there's at least one city staff member who is present at least the entire time of the show. Yep. I'm sure they're there before, I'm sure they're there after, but who does the setup? Who does the cleanup? Who does all that stuff?
Yeah, so usually the group that's renting the facility, they'll bring in a lot of their equipment, but if they have requests for tables, chairs, we are the ones setting up that
Okay,
equipment.
so, and we, if I'm understanding correctly, you pay $1,500. If you want chairs, you don't want chairs, it's $1,500.
Yes.
So who cleans up afterwards? I know who cleans up, but you can tell us who cleans up.
Yeah, so, we do some of that work. Usually what we see is we're setting up tables and chairs, and then more of the decorations come in from the folks renting the facility. So they'll clean up more of the decorations, but we're the ones setting up the chairs, the tables, and then also breaking them down after the fact.
Okay. And then who mops the floors? Again, I know who does it, but go ahead,
Yep,
tell
that
us.
would be the convention center staff.
Yeah, okay. So I just can't imagine that we're even covering our costs, right? Let's put the not-for-profits aside for a second, and maybe we even need to have different categories for not-for-profits, but we're not even covering our costs at $600 and $1,500. So maybe this needs to be broken down even further. If you want to rent tables and chairs, we're going to charge you a fee for the facility. You want tables and chairs, we're going to charge you for that. And again, I'm just kind of, just some thoughts here. But what I do believe is that what we're charging, particularly for not-for-profits, doesn't even cover our cost, right? Particularly if we got to set up tables and chairs and so on and so forth. Sure. So, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor?
Commissioner?
Yeah, along with that research, if you will, also curious as to if you could confirm one way or the other. When we have events that come in and out, I don't know if this is a daily rate, but we have several events that, if they are setting up Thursday, Friday for a show on Saturday, then breaking down on Sunday, is that they're charging $1,500 for Saturday only, but not the move in and move out? So I'm just curious if you could determine that.
Yeah, it is a daily fee. Now, you bring up a good point, and I know this is something that we've talked about recently, but specifically related to the bandstand, because you'll see that some of the recent changes that we did make related to special events and rental of the bandstand included a tiered approach, and that is if you're renting it for X number of hours, you're going to be charged a fee. That is something we've had some initial discussions with the convention center team about, and that is if they're coming in the day prior to set up, we should charge them a fee to do that. Currently, it's not being exercised. We're not doing that. And so I think that's something that we need to take a stronger look at and figure out what that tiered approach might look like. If it is half a day or an evening, they're coming in early, we're making staff available to allow them into the building to be able to set up for the next day, which is the rental day.
Yeah, just the term that I've used back when I was working for hotels, it's a move-in day, move-out day. So there's a lesser rate or a percentage rate of that charge. Because again, you've got heat, light, and power in the place, you've got staffing, people are coming in, asking the staff thousands of questions of where is this, where is that, how do I do this? So it is a very functional day. Usually the day of the event is kind of quieter than the move-in and move-out options. So I think these are considerations that to look at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this was, we will make some recommendations on some of these fees, but for now, we just wanted to get current fees in the schedule. And then just quickly, just to finish, so water meter tampering, I wanted to touch on that. So we will have plumbers, property owners physically turning on and off their water. In some cases, we will be alerted to a leak at the property. We'll go out, the water department will shut off the water. Property owner comes back, they don't know why the water's off, they turn it back on, leak continues. So, the request is to contact us, let us know that they are requesting a turn on, turn off. And if a plumber or somebody violates that and goes into the meter pit, or they turn on or turn off the water without letting us know, there's a fee for that. Refuse, just ensuring that we have the fees in there for refuse containers, yard waste containers. Those are true costs of those containers, so that's not a profitable item. That's the actual cost that we incur for those containers. Weddings, beach weddings, so $200 with $150 refundable if it's canceled before the date of the ceremony. And then finally, this is just something I put in there, is Board of Adjustment fees. They have a fee schedule. I think it's important, if we're capturing in the city code costs related to site plan review with Planning Commission, I think we should capture in the schedule of fees and penalties what the fees are for Board of Adjustment hearings. So again, this is just first blush at schedule of fees and penalties, some of the recommendations, calling out some of the fees that we're currently charging. The final thing I want to end on is I know related to penalties, we are capped in the charter at $500 per day of the violation. So just as you think of recommendations, just keep that in mind related to penalties. I know there are some penalties that we would love to be able to charge more than $500, but at this time we're currently limited to that. So just wanted to end on that, and I can take any questions you might have.
Question, Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders?
Kevin, is it legal, do we have the opportunity to charge a higher penalty for a person it's on the third or fourth offense? In other words, if you get the same person making the same mistake? More?
I'm just, in reviewing the code, there are opportunities that talk about first offense and second offense currently. But whether that's how legal that is, I'm not sure. The code is ancient.
I'll look at Lisa.
Right.
But Commissioner, we are talking about increasing that $500 amount later this afternoon.
Oh, good, thank you then.
Just one more comment I wanted to make too, and you'll see we proposed a change in here. I think it was related to license violations, but in the code, we have a lot of references to no less than, no more than for the first offense. And for the second offense, no less than, no more than. So I think we should be establishing an amount. And so, as we go through this will probably be some additional recommendations that we bring to you, is just to have fixed amounts in there, not this discretionary fine amount range. So,
Mayor, if I may, you questioned about a fine-tooth comb. Anal is as anal does. I've gone through this, and there are, as you say, for feeding waterfowl, not less than $5 or more than $50. I mean, that doesn't even cover the cost of the paperwork to get this accomplished. There's many things like this. And something else and I don't know if we have an answer to it, but for parking in travel lanes, this penalty exists quite a bit in the traffic section, but it says not less than 50 nor more than 100, provided that with the consent of the person charged with a violation, the chief of police is authorized to accept and receive without hearing not less than $50 as a penalty for such violations if such penalty is paid within 7 days from the date of the violation, or accept $75 as such violation is paid within 30 days from the date of the violation, or accepted $100 if such penalty is paid after 30 days of the violation. I mean, I graduated high school, but this just makes no sense to me. I'm sure there's logic and reasoning behind it, but if it could be simplified or explained, that appears in about 14 penalty sections within the parking. So I'm just curious if that could be reviewed, and to put that kind of responsibility on the police chief. And in some, it talks about the police chief or their duly appointed replacement or what have you. And then there's one that not less than $28.75 and not more than $115. Again, these are fees that, have just kind of band-aided over the years. So I'll be happy to share my highlighted sections with you, just so that could be considered in the future. And, it just, back to convention center exhibitor. Exhibitors in the convention hall event who do not hold a valid Rehoboth Beach mercantile license are charged $12 per event. Joe does an exceptionally good job, but he may not know if this even exists, okay, or how to do it. So again, there are things that I'm here that just been, over the years, added in, and probably for a very valid reason at that time. But those reasons should be investigated and reviewed. So I'll be happy to, couldn't sleep the other night, so I'll be happy to share this with you.
Yeah, and again, just to end, I mean, we view this discussion as fluid. I think what we'll do is we'll take a lot of the comments we received today, we'll go back through and include some additional changes, bring this document back at the next meeting. I anticipate this schedule being presented, or at least available in the agenda at every budget meeting, so that come March, when we're ready to adopt the budget, we're ready to adopt some of the changes to these fees and penalties. But by no means is this an introduce and, consider at this meeting alone, but more so a discussion that we can have at each budget meeting, which was the intent of creating the schedule. So.
And I just want to say, this is the result of almost 3 years of trying to get this accomplished, and Evan has been incredible in putting this together and the work that is done. But I think this just brings to the forefront of how we need to be more, I hate this word, proactive in accomplishing these things, and not reactive to, oh, this happened, we've got to set a fee for it. So again, I think this is a process that I look forward to for the future, and keeping this as clean as possible. Right. Because there may be fees in here and charges in here that we're not charging, and maybe we should be. Right. Those types of aspects.
And I will go back to a point that Corey made, and that is, these are fees and penalties that are referenced in the city code. So certainly it's not just a review, adoption of this schedule, but there will be subsequent ordinances that we need to bring back to sort of codify these changes. If we're removing a fee, we're removing a penalty, or reference them, there will be ordinances that accommodate those. So, we'll have to bring those forward at that time too. So.
Thank you. I'd like to go to the public, then we'll come back here and finish up. Any members of the public? This is the opportunity to speak on anything that we talked today, as well as citizen comment, which lets you wander a little bit.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. A couple things. I think at one point, when the business licenses were talked about a couple years ago, when you were looking at increasing them, I had suggested then, and I still think this may be something you want to entertain, is I think there was talk at one point about trying to get the business license fee to, at a minimum, cover the free parking permit that came with that fee. But I had suggested at the time having an election that could be made by the business. If the business doesn't need a parking permit, say they have a parking lot that they can park in, or the owner lives close enough that they walk to work, for example, they don't need to necessarily be giving a parking pass. So have an option for with a permit or without a permit, and have the fee be adjusted. I think that's a way for some of these businesses may really be unhappy with the increase in the cost of the business license and may not even be using the parking pass. So let's, let's consider that. The other thing, and I've mentioned this to Corey before, I think our building permits are technically good for a year. If a builder doesn't finish the job in a year, I think there should be an additional fee for extending that permit. I'm sitting next to a house right now where they are more times than not there working. And I question whether they're going to get done in their year. They should. There's not that much left, but nobody's working on it. There was a house on another block of the same street I'm on that I believe took 4 years to build. And I don't believe they ever had to pay for a second building permit. I could be wrong, but I think there needs to be some looking at that if a project is not completed in the time frame that the building permit allows, there needs to be additional fees associated with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Frank, anything?
Yeah, I finally have something. Frank Gaynor, homeowner and a rental property owner, because now it's affecting my pocket. And I see our rental license is gonna go up 4 times for our condo, and that's fine. But I just want to make sure there's an enforcement measure to look at those who are renting their properties but don't have a license and also are not paying the 7% tax that you pay to the city for renting your property. Our rental is in a 14-unit building, and I like to remind them at the annual meeting when they bash the renters that we have the only legal rental in the building. And so I think there are others who are doing that, but is there someone who's checking that?
Thank you, Frank. Again, this is an opportunity for citizen comment. Off topic, anything further? If not, I'll bring it back up here. Are there any
Mayor, if I
further
could, please.
comment? I want to stick to today's agenda.
Yep. Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner Thayer.
Yeah, Mrs. Diefendorfer brings up 2 good points, but I'll stick to the one that applies to today's agenda. I do think we should consider from a schedule of fees, maybe breaking out, if you do not, giving the businesses the option not to take a permit, a parking permit for a less fee. I feel it's also probably cleaner, so we all kind of understand what we're getting from a business fee perspective versus a total fee that includes a parking permit. May overall reduce revenue, but something to consider. So,
would you mind giving thought to that? Say, including what is applicability? Is it just a business license? Is it the rental license? Is it anything else? Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Galante?
I wanted to pick up on the second recommendation that Carolyn made related to building permit costs. I did a major renovation on a home in the District of Columbia. It took me 14 months to do it, and I had to pay for a second year to cover the 2 months. I think it's an excellent suggestion because I think it will help to incentivize builders to get their construction projects done in a year, which will lessen the disruption to our citizens. So I wholeheartedly recommend that we run that to ground.
Anybody else?
yeah, I agree with what Commissioner Galante said. They should expire.
Very good. Anybody else? Mark? Good as the order. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just want
Close out.
to remind our members of the public and everyone watching virtually that our next budget meeting is February 9th, 2026, and that will be our second budget meeting where we will be going over the general fund by department, including revenue, and we'll be discussing everything in the general fund except public works. So looking forward to seeing you there.
With that, there's no further business. This meeting is adjourned at 11:54 a.m. Thank you very much.